patch is out. Let's go, boys. Okay, so these are the patch notes. I'm updating right now. Okay, wait. Patch notes being pulled up. There they go. Okay, all right. So here we have it. The big changelog, guys. This is it. New modes, duos, don't care. Freestyle, don't care. General gameplay, jail, don't care. 24 hours, doesn't say the time slot, don't care. XP is now advanced in increments of 5 instead of increments of 4. Each click of the XP wheel now spends 5 gold to gain 5 XP. The XP curve has been adjusted to compensate. So, wow, that's interesting. That changes everything. This is gonna change like level timings. So, okay, what is this? So basically, one thing TFT did was basically do exactly this. So you don't have to do math on XP anymore. XP to gold is now a 1-to-1 ratio. The timings at which you level up are apparently quite different. I'll need to actually play some games and see when you'll want to level up now. But level timings are just different. Each click of the XP wheel, the curve is adjusted. So it goes from 0, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Let's check out my info hub over here. We've got, because I don't remember the exact numbers. So we've got like the info, and the current mechanics have XP costs per levels here. If XP costs per levels are currently at, oh, they're actually being updated. Dude, Yusu is actually, this is Yusu right now. He's literally updating it right now for the new system. He is fucking on this shit. Can we get a hand for Yusu? This guy is fucking dedicated. He's helping out like with this sheet, which is going to be a useful community hub for people. He has his like Reddit post. Yusu actually deserves a big fucking hand. He does so much. He spends more time than me working on like just stuff like this. He updates all his Reddit posts like retroactively to be accurate, so you can like go visit them afterwards. Like, it's actually crazy. Okay, so XP cost of levels. It was currently it did just get changed. XP per level, cumulative XP goes to 150. So it's like 10. So starting at 6 is 10, 20, 25, 35, 50. So starting at 6. And now starting at 6, it's 16, 32, 56, 88, 128. So this is a change that what I could do is I could look through, I could do the math on this and I could talk about the new timings. I don't really want to do that. What's going to be a lot easier and faster is if I just jump into a game or two and talk about like what the new timings probably are going to be. That's just going to be easier. But level timings are going to change based on this. I don't know whether roll value or level value is getting buffed. It's probably going to stay around at the same, but we're going to have to find out. Okay, so more on that later. New XP curve. Oh yeah, old and new. It just shows old and new. I didn't realize it showed the old one. That's why I pulled up my other thing. Okay, so here, we're gonna be in patch note mode for a while here. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my camera over to the right side and get here we go. There we go. That's gonna be a little bit better. Okay, can we do a free play testing? We can, but I'll just do that later. It's not a big deal. So yeah, the XP curve has changed. That's going to change timings. We'll figure out what those are when we're actually playing. Item drops. The table for item drops from wave 30 and beyond has been adjusted. So old item drop table. So they're basically increasing your ability to get like tier 5 items. That's been a big complaint about the game. Tier 5s don't really come. So wave 30 used to be a 50-50. And now it'll basically give you a tier 4 at an 80-20, which is very high odds. Between 3 drops, like 80-20 means you're getting a tier 4. Wave 35, Big Black Dragon. So basically, they just gave you free Smuggler after 30, right? I think Wave 35 should be this new update, 70-30, I assume. 70-30. Trolls is going to be the new Year Beast, which is 50-50, probably 50-50. And Year Beast is going to be the new Roshan, which is tier 5, 100%. No, it's actually... Oh. So they added in kind of a stage... because, you know, Roshan is supposed to be the final one. They didn't want 100% before Roshan. That makes sense. But for the most part, it's basically like starting at round 30, everyone gets a Smuggler. Look at the new EV values for Smuggler. Yeah, the new EV values are going to change with this. So part of what Yusu has done here on this info hub, and I'm going to link this. I'm going to make it like more publicly accessible in just a little bit. I want to be able to make this a bit more accurate over time, but we can look at EV of loot rounds. So where did they actually change? So EV of loot rounds is basically, so right now we have a resource that I've mostly been working on, like my item tier list rankings. Right now, obviously, I wrote it's outdated because, of course, I mean the new patch is going to change everything, and I'll have to update that as we go along. But drawing from those numbers, the EV of loot rounds actually does change, which is kind of interesting. So is Smuggler better or worse, and by how many points you see according to this algorithm? Because I didn't see what it was before. I'm just curious, like how many points Smuggler gets better or worse, because that's interesting to know. Okay. UI changes. The UI has received a major overhaul. That's the entire section. Just a ton of updates to UI, like a lot. Yeah, I mean, they can't even really do this. It's better by a bit. Okay, so Smuggler is better by a little bit. Okay, here are voice lines. White Spire got a lot more chatty. Almost every hero in Underlords has received a ton of voice lines. Cool. Underlords, starting out with the big update, Hobgetter and Anisix. You'll be able to modify them throughout the game to fit your crew by selecting talents every 5 rounds starting around 10. Yep, Underlords talents modify their abilities in powerful and unique ways. Not immortal and can be killed in combat each round. Okay. So yeah, that's important to know. Some theories were saying that they were kind of immortal. Patch is actually out. Yeah, I can update my game and then like browse this in the in-game clients, I guess. I don't know if that's, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just looking at patch notes in a different way, but I should at least start patching my game. So Underlords have a hype meter. Hype is required to power each of your Underlords abilities. Each Underlord generates passive hype in a unique way. Every time an Underlord kills a unit, they gain 10 hype. So okay, so if they kill a unit, they gain hype. But they have to last hit it, I guess, right? Interesting. So units that have better times last hitting are going to gain more hype. And this could actually influence the talents you pick a little bit. For example, Hobgin's talent that's a nuke might actually will give him a lot more hype than Hobgin's talent that allows him to switch targets and set everything on fire, which is actually going to give him maybe less hype. Although it's balanced because he gains hype while things are on fire. If an Underlord is stunned or hexed, they lose 5 hype per second while under those effects. So stuns will lower hype. Interesting. Interesting. I guess this is buff to Shaman? I mean, I don't know. When the enemy Underlord is killed, your Underlord is empowered and gains twice as much hype for the rest of the fight. Whoa. Interesting. Interesting. Dude. Okay, that's very, very interesting. So, killing the enemy Underlord early is definitely useful. You really want to protect these. Okay. Hype is not consumed when an Underlord casts ability. So they use an ability, that ability has a cooldown. You can only cast that ability for the first time and the second time and the third time when you have a certain amount of hype, but it's not consumed, which is very interesting. As long as your Underlord's hype is above the threshold for an ability, you'll cast it when it's ready. Separate cooldown like all cooldowns are. Trash talk. Set of taunts for both prep phase as well as combat phase. Oh, okay. A little flavor there. That could be pretty cool. Not too much to say about that. We got Nyx Assassin. Now we get to see numbers on these. We knew he was an Insect Assassin at tier 1. Ability, Spiked Carapace. So Spiked Carapace, Nyx Assassin pops Spike out of its carapace, negating and reflecting 100% of the damage dealt. Max 1 from each source, and that's how it works in Dota as well. 100 mana, not surprising, with a 10-second cooldown. And it lasts for... It says it stuns... Wait, what's the duration? Wait, it says as stunning the source of the damage for 1 second. But there's no duration on the carapace buff itself. Does this last 4 seconds? Because in Dota, it should be 4 seconds. I don't know if they changed it. I stopped playing Dota like 5 years ago. But it was like 4 seconds in Dota, right? Lifestealer is tier 3. That's interesting. This seems kind of insane, honestly. I mean, for a tier 1, this unit seems a little nuts. The fact that you can go into Assassins early is crazy. If Carapace lasts 4 seconds, you just like get a level 2 Nyx, you frontline it, it charges its mana, it pops Carapace, everything on the opponent team gets stunned. That's a big deal. Like these team-wide stuns matter even a bit more because of the like minus stun while hyped. So basically it's like if you look at Underlords, this is a minor factor, but it's important to think in these new terms. The rules of the game have changed. You stun their Underlords, they lose 5 hype. And that can matter. Like, they get a cast a little bit later, so that's even a buff. Like, the ability to stun backline matters a bit more, I guess. Primordial might be nuts. Yeah, we'll see. Guys, no spoilerinos. Let's get into this. Vendetta, after teleporting, it gains 200 bonus damage on the next attack and applies break for 4 seconds. Disabling passive effects, which is a big deal. It means you're going to have to position Nyx intelligently. Check the new UI. Yeah, okay, I think what we're going to do now... What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into the actual game itself, and we're going to read more... It should be in here, right? The visual of this does seem... Wait, this orders it in a different way. This is the big changelog. Okay, let's start... Okay, we're going to start back a bit with the big update. This is shorter.
Basically,
this probably won't tell us much. We're just going to breeze through this. It's just saying what we already know. This is for people that haven't been following news, basically. It's like, here's the Underlords. Here's generally what they do. No numbers, freestyle mode. Here's what it does. Too many heroes. You get jail. We already know all this. New UI. A note about ranks. When the update rolls out, a ranked player will be disabled for a few hours as we watch to make sure things are stable. That's great, because I was just going to spend this time on patch notes anyway. Amazing. Okay. Ranks alive, player ranks will be compensated a bit for part of the new update. So, compressed a bit? Okay, so people might like drop out of Lords. I assume, yeah, so everyone's going to lose their Lord ranking. So it's kind of like a season reset. Like you'll get a seed based on something and you all climb back to Lord again. Carapace duration is 2 seconds. So Yusu, master of data mining, I don't know how he does his wizardry, but he has confirmed carapace duration is 2 seconds. I'm gonna need you as like the Morpheus in my ear for this one, Yusu. Like for when I go through these notes, I assume there's gonna be a lot of questions because there's some numbers they just left out. Thank you. Okay, 2 seconds. That's less good. I was thinking 4 was insane, but if everything's attacking it, I mean 2 seconds is all you need. Okay, zoom for zoomers. I can zoom in a little bit. Let's get a bit of a zoom going because it is a little bit zoomed out here. So let's get this set up. So there we go. I'm gonna make this easier for myself. I'm gonna do a quick change real quick just so I don't have to change something later. We're gonna move back to the other side. Okay, guys. So let's continue this. New UI is pretty nice. I'll explore the UI afterwards. The UI, like, everything looks changed, so that's gonna be crazy. This is literally a new game. If you guys want, like, the quick and dirty of it, this is like a new, it's an actual new game. Like, everything is different. This is like a crazy update, okay? A cursor? Yeah, the cursor got changed, right? We have, like, some change to the cursor. So, let's continue. So, the way Nyx is balanced, I really like Nyx's design as a hero. It's actually really cool. So he has 2 kind of OP abilities that are balanced by the fact that you kind of can't play for both at the same time. If you're playing for Carapace, you need to frontline him so he tanks, and in which case you won't teleport so he won't Vendetta. And if you want to play for Vendetta, maybe you want to break something, you need to put him in back and he's not really going to be able to get Carapace off, like, not relevantly. Maybe halfway through the fight he'll stun like 1 or 2 units. But I like the design of this unit. It's actually really cool. So this incentivizes you to think smartly. You have to decide whether you want to play for Carapace or Vendetta. There's not a lot of units that do this, by the way. Most positioning is kind of easy, right? But you actually have to make a decision on how you want to position this. And Vendetta, you'll need to try to align him with the opponent unit you're trying to break. Assassins, the way Assassins teleport, is basically they're going to go towards something that's closer to the column, which is the opposite of how Blink Dagger works. So if you want to break a specific opponent, you want to put Nyx in that opponent unit's column or close by it. And that's going to be a unit like Troll Warlord or something. Anything that wants to disable a big passive on a carry. So maybe you can play for Vendetta break when there's something you want to break in a heads-up scenario, and maybe Carapace is better when you need a tank. Really cool concept. I really like it. Shadow Demon, Heartless Demon. So we've seen this before. Demonic Purge. We've seen this, but without numbers. So we know, if we're following news, we know all of these without numbers, but I will reiterate stuff I've said for people that haven't been following news. That's going to be really important. So I will say one more thing about Nyx. The fact that he's a tier 1 assassin is a big deal. Now that assassins have 3 tier 1s, those being Nyx, Bloodseeker, and Bounty Hunter, early game assassin concept is great. I think that's really important. I think it's important to understand that a lot of the factors that determine play rate are stuff that skews early game. Like, play rate and win rate are going to be 2 very separate metrics, and at the end of the day, if there's, like, being front-loaded into a strategy is a lot better than being back-loaded into it.
Gay.
If that makes sense. Yo, Ticken plays and Enthroned remains. Welcome back to the 1/8 gay clip, guys. So what I mean by that is, like, more tier 1s. If they're, like, there's 3 assassins in tier 1 now, and there's 2 in tier 2, Morphling and Quap. That's a big deal. Suddenly, like, you're thinking about assassins as, like, an actual dominant early game comp. This additional tier 1 assassin does change a lot of the timing of assassins, more than you'd think. So suddenly, assassins might be, like, a great early game option. This is part of the reason why warriors are so good, by the way. Part of the reason, and it is just part, and warriors have a lot of reasons they're so good, and by they, I guess I have to start using past tense because everything's different now, but it's because they had 3 tier 1s and 2 tier 2s, right? You have to understand that. It's a big deal. So, Nyx Assassin, great buff for assassins. Shadow Demon, Heartless Demon, Demonic Purge, repeatedly purges the target from the enemy unit, removing positive buffs, applying break, and slowing the target for 5 seconds. Then it slowly regains its movement and attack speed until the end of the duration, upon which 500, 800, 1100 damage is dealt. And it has a 20-second cooldown, 15-second cooldown. You're probably not getting this cast off twice, although at a 15-second cooldown, you're in range of something like an Octarine Essence. So this is a pretty powerful unit, I think. I mean, Heartless Demon are two powerful tags, although Heartless isn't really great on tier 1s, and Demon isn't necessarily either. Demonic Purge, I mean, the damage you deal after that 5-second duration seems good. 500 damage, it is slow, but you get like the removing positive buffs and break and slow for that. That's fine. It's not as good of a skill as it is in something like Dota. If you come from Dota and you're like, wow, you just get Demonic Purge, like your ulti, it's pretty powerful because like when you're ganking, that movement slow is really important early game. But the delay on the damage, like removing positive buffs won't matter too much. Applying break almost won't matter too much. Like one in every like 15, or sorry, yeah, it's something like one in every 8 cases, I'm sure it'll break a passive, and maybe that will end up doing something, but he's gonna target randomly, so you can't really do much there. And slowing the target, so we don't know how much of an attack speed slow this is. Maybe Yusu will be able to procure that information for us. If it's a big attack speed slow to start, then this is better. This is a good ability. I'm not saying this is bad, but it's not as OP as it might seem from Dota, because 5 seconds is a long time, and having to wait 5 seconds for your damage to come out is definitely a big downside to having that damage. Like Laguna Blade, you'd rather just have the damage just like right there. Although, I mean, Heartless Demon is much better tags than Human Mage, and that's kind of the difference if we're comparing it to Lina. So yeah, this is a unit, I think you can just kind of run this. Like, it's a tier 1, so it's cheap, it's early game, it's got efficient tags. If you get it to 2-star, you will just splash this on your early game board, right? You'll put like a Pudge in or whatever you want for Heartless. Doesn't even have to be Pudge. We've got like Lifestealer in the game. There's more Heartlesses in the game now than ever to play with, and Break is fairly valuable. I think that it might lose some value when you effectively it might lose some value when you can't control who it goes on, like when it targets randomly. Yusu says he's really liking Break. It's basically Doom. Yeah, but Doom mutes items too. And also, do we know if Break takes off certain alliances? Or is that how does it disable all alliance bonuses that unit has? So it does everything Doom does, but without the items. Okay, so Yusu says, and Yusu knows everything. We're just going to defer to Yusu's wisdom in every case. But Yusu says Break takes off alliance buff. So if you use it on a warrior, that warrior will lose that armor. They'll still, the buff will be on the rest of the units. They won't lose a tier of their buff, but that one warrior will lose its 20 armor. So yeah, Break is a big deal. Breaking the alliances that don't do anything to that unit won't do anything, right? Like Heartless or Mage, these are alliances that, you know, well, Heartless is negative and applies to the entire team. But Mage obviously is just kind of the same thing. It's debuff. So Shadow Demon, I don't know. He's just an early game transitional unit. I don't know if he'll fit into like late game comps. He's a demon, and we know Ana 6 scales with the amount of demons you have on the board. So we'll have to see how this works out. This is going to be pretty interesting, but I see Shadow Demon as a flexible transitional early game unit. If you get a level 2 Shadow Demon early, no matter what your comp you're in, you can splash him on your board and it'll be good. He's a tier 1, so you resell at a good price. I mean, outside of maybe possibly Ana 6 comps, it's going to be probably hard to run this on your late game board. So that's Shadow Demon in a nutshell. Dazzle, Troll Healer. So Healer is a new alliance. For those of you guys who don't know, 3 healers. You need 3 healers to complete the tier. And that's going to increase your healing done. Now, I think actually we should go through alliance changes before units. That would just make a lot more sense. Can we actually skip units and go straight to what the new alliances do and what the old changes are? Because it's actually, where is that? Here we go, new alliances. So did they not change any old? Okay, new alliances and alliance changes. We have to do this first. It's a bad idea. I kind of messed up already not doing this first. So much info. Right, this is a completely different game. Okay, when a brute attacks an enemy, it's a percentage base, so we didn't know whether this was percentage based or flat. We knew that it was a percentage based damage debuff, and we knew that it was an amount of damage on initial application. Now, one is percentage based and one is flat. Now, flat means early game, and percentage based means late game, basically. So whenever the brute attacks the enemy, the pair of brutes will stop it for 3 seconds. It'll be 15% damage reduction, and when it's initially applied, you smack them for 50 damage. Brutes prefer to attack enemies that do not have the debuff. Wow, that's pretty interesting. 40% is a lot. So this might be a hot take. I'm going to be able to start making predictions, and you have to understand I'm going to be wrong on some of these because I'm going to make a lot of predictions. I don't expect Brute to be super powerful. It seems like an early game transition opportunity. We'll have to see how things work out. Lifestealer, someone mentioned, is tier 3 and not tier 1, and that's going to change things because getting Lifestealer to tier 3 is going to be scary all of a sudden. Or sorry, not tier 3, 3-star. Getting Lifestealer to 3-star is pretty scary. Okay, so when we have the pair of brutes, I think it's not big enough of an incentivizer. The most important thing to understand is brutes prefer to attack enemies that do not have the debuff, which is weird. It's your brutes are going to be melee units. I think all brutes are melee units in this game so far. So they'll spin around a little bit. They'll attack anything in their attack range. I think prefer to attack enemies means they won't walk, but they will attack different things in the range. And the debuff only lasts 3 seconds. So it's if let's say my guy is in attack range of 3 units, which is kind of like a high case scenario. It'll attack one, it'll attack the other, and it'll attack the other. And then maybe it'll probably even attack the first one again. Most brutes seem to have kind of lowish attack speed on average. So it'll just attack the first one again. So this unit will just keep rotating this buff out. And in doing so, it'll deal these pokes of damage. You're doing the 15% debuff, which matters, and the 50 damage, which matters, but you're not focusing. Not focusing a target is a big deal. And it feels hard to play for 4 brutes. 4 brutes, it's hard for brutes to be late game. With what we know about brutes, it's going to be a little bit harder, but this is kind of the only take I can say right now. I can't just look at this and spend 10 minutes on this. I can say right now, it feels like it's going to be hard for 4 brutes late game to be strong. 2 brutes early game, you could pair that with Treant Protector. If Treant is still as good of a hero as it is, Treant is going to be great. Champion, we covered this before already. Champion is a really solid design. I love this concept of Champion. Legion Commander is the only unit that has Champion on it, and Brute only reduces attack damage. Yeah, Brute only reduces attack damage. So Champion is just Legion Commander. That's her alliance. She receives all alliance bonuses that you have. So basically, if you have 6 elusive, 3 hunter, and you put her in as effectively, I guess that would be the 8th unit because, 2 of the elusives are hunters. That would be the 8th unit on your board. You pick up tier 2 elusive and tier 1 hunter. This looks kind of OP at the start, but the more you look at this, the worse it ends up getting. I'm not saying this will be weak necessarily, but I also don't expect this to be super good. Not as good as a lot of people think. Because you're only picking up alliances. You really want to be completing new alliances rather than picking up multiple ones you already have. That's going to be better in general. Healer, we didn't know this amount. All friendly healing is amplified by 30%. Wow, that's kind of low. I thought it would be 50%. I thought it would be more than 30. That does seem pretty low. Okay, that's interesting. So, that's an important note because we want to kind of go up and look at Dazzle on healers. That's where we left off. And insect. Spiderling swarm the edges of the board. If you have 3 insects, you need 3 healers and 3 insects, and they're 1 tier each. Whereas I didn't mention Brute is a 2-4. There's 5 Brutes in the game, and it's a 2 and 4 alliance. Okay, so Spiderling swarm, they have 1 health, so I guess that they're untargetable, which means they will instant die to any AoE at all, which gives them some option for counter, I guess. Enemies bitten by Spiderlings have a 30% chance to miss their attacks for half a second. And Spiderlings probably have attack speed that is a bit more than 0.5 seconds. That's interesting. I guess Yusu will probably be able to tell us Spiderling attack speed. That kind of matters. If their attack speed is 0.5 seconds, that means they keep this debuff on the entire time. If their attack speed is 1 per second, that means in reality it's more like a 15% chance to miss, right? It's very low attack speed. Okay, so if Spiderling is attacking something, because this is 500 milliseconds and because their attack speed is it's a rate of 0.4 attacks per second. Whoa, 0.4 attacks per second. Wow. So they attack once every 2.2 seconds, which means, whoa, this is terrible. 0.4 attacks per second means, so when we account for that, this is closer to what, a 12% chance to miss? Spiderlings are replenished upon death. So any unit that your Spiderling is attacking, they need to be in that window of debuff, and then need that. This does seem very weak. I was already saying when I evaluated insects, unless Yusu got that number wrong, he's saying, oh, it's 2.5 attacks per second. Never mind. Okay, the number was wrong. There was an oopsie. He had it backwards, I think. 2.5 attacks per second. Okay, that's a big deal. So yeah, that's okay. That's very different. Very, very different. 2.5 attacks per second means that this is going to be on 100% of the time, which means any unit that the Spiderling is attacking is going to be 30% chance to miss. That makes a lot more sense. I was going to say that would have been weird. It's backwards in the files for some reason. Huh. Yeah, okay. And the damage on Spiderlings is 8 to 10. So it's 9 damage per attack, which is going to be really low. And again, Yusu is just a wizard who knows everything. He's data mining. He's doing wizardry that I'm too dumb to understand, but yeah. He knows all the numbers. Okay, Brawny. Old Brawny units would have gained 30 to 60 maximum HP for each kill they have. New Brawny units, 15 to 30 for each kill by any of your team Brawny units throughout the game. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! So any kill your Brawny unit gets buffs all your Brawny units, right? Okay, so I would say the most important thing to understand about this change is how they scale now. This looks like linear scaling on both fronts, which is 30-60 and 15-30, right? It doubles up. That's linear. This is not linear anymore. This is basically saying 2 Brawny is bad and 4 Brawny is really, really good. Because now, not only do you double up this amount, but you're doubling up your chance to get those kills in the first place, effectively quadrupling up. And nerds will point out it's a bit less than doubling because the first 2 Brawnies you run are going to have a higher degree of kills than the second 2 you run on average. But yes, it's like, this is crazy. This is an enabler for 4 Brawny to make sense. And the most important thing is, like, let's look at how buff this is. So you're going to run 4 Brawnies on your board. And you're going to have, let's say Disruptor is a slot in at the end. So you've got Axe, you've got Juggernaut, you've got Beastmaster, and you've got Bristleback now. A new Brawny, he's going to get a lot of kills. Bristleback is a unit that deals a lot of spell damage and attack damage. So you've got 4 heroes that are all gaining max HP. That being said, your Bristleback and your Beastmaster are going to get most of your kills, and they're going to spread the HP to your Juggernaut and your Axe. This is kind of good for Axe. Axe is going to get a lot of HP in his like main tank slot. If you get a Blade Mail, that's going to be nuts. This is a crazy buff. This is a crazy buff. All health got doubled. Where does it say that? Plus HP is so bad when everyone has twice HP. Yeah, you're right. We should get to that first. Where's the note that says that? Because that does change everything. You're right. This without context needs to change. All hero change. So hero change. So this is almost the number 1 change. It's kind of annoying. We have to bounce around because certain things have priority. All heroes have their health doubled from current values, right? That's really, really important. So fights are going to be a bit slower. It's kind of hidden. Yeah, it is kind of hidden. This is the most important thing to understand about evaluating all of these changes, right? All heroes have their health doubled from the current values, okay? So what that is going to mean is basically the flat value of health just goes down. So this isn't actually, as we thought, an incredible, immediate, like crazy change. Tide 3-star has 11k HP. Pudge will outlast all timers. Yeah, I mean, presumably they've balanced the game in other ways, but basically they've just doubled health amounts across the board. So what this means is, like, anything that deals the same amount of damage does kind of half damage now. Anything that gives HP gives like half HP now because we judge it relative to what they have. So we're operating on a different scale. And what this means is the Brawny units, we're sort of having this again because the HP doubled, and you end up with the same number if you have a double, right? So you end up with the same number. It's still the same amount of HP, but they split it for their team, which is good, by the way. You would rather have damage split across like Axe and Juggernaut than you would have Beastmaster have all the kills. This is an improvement. So yeah, Brawny did get kind of a bit better because of this. They could be pretty good. I think 4 Brawny makes a lot of opportunities. Doesn't make mages useless. I assume mages will receive buffs that will compensate. Deadeye, in addition to standard alliance bonus, melee Deadeye units gain phasing movement. So they must have added a melee Deadeye unit that didn't have phasing movement because Bloodseeker had phasing movement. So they must have changed something else. That's going to be really interesting. Demon. Okay, so they reworked demons. Whoa. Old is demon when you have 50% pure damage. New, whenever a demon casts a spell, for 4 seconds, all demons are silenced and the caster gains 50% bonus pure damage for each allied demon. Whoa. Okay. What the hell? So, on one hand, you're silencing all of your demons, but on the other, you're turning it into bonus pure damage. So demon is kind of its own alliance now. So let's talk about this. Does the downside outweigh the upside? 4 seconds silence, but the caster gains the bonus pure damage. So whoever casts first is going to steal all the pure damage. So your tank is going to cast... This is so weird. This is so weird. So you're like, let's say you have a Doom frontline solo tank. He's going to gain the mana first. He's going to cast first. He's going to be the one that steals the bonus. So demons are kind of like, they all pass around this baton of damage every 4 seconds. So what happens... So what's really, really interesting is the implication of this means after the first cast is whoever charges mana first, but the second cast is maybe whoever has the fastest cast speed, right? Cast speed actually matters now because that's almost going to be like priority for who gets to steal this bonus, because you can only have one demon at a time with the bonus. Does BKB block the silence? If BKB blocks this silence, it should. BKB is nuts and demons all of a sudden. That's really interesting. Anything else that might purge the silence, that's really, really cool. BKB feels like it really has a place now. I think it's just funny that SF is never going to cast again. Yeah, dude, SF is never going to cast again. Dude, that's so true. That's so true. His animation was like 2 seconds. This is really interesting. So, I mean, you want the first one to cast to be the one that deals the most damage. So like Terrorblade, or maybe Doom, some heavy hitter, some tier 4 demon maybe, or some 3-star. This is hard to evaluate. But now that... So Anna6 before, evaluating her with old demon, it's like she gives you a buff that's relative to your demons. But now that demons is an actual alliance that the game sort of incentivizes you to run more of, then suddenly this is pretty good. It's opponent's demon too. So all demons are silenced. Yes, this is opponent's demon too. They did bold this all. So it silences all demons, but you only get the bonus pure damage for each allied demon. So to counter a demon comp, all I need to do is run one demon that has a fast cast, and I'll silence the entire demon comp. But I won't gain much pure damage, and also because demon got reworked, there's not enough of a reason to run a single demon for each allied demon, which includes itself. So if you have the solo demon, if you have a single demon, it's sort of the same buff because you get that 50% pure damage, but you only get it for 4 seconds after the cast, which is very different, of course.
Basically 1/8 gay.
Swim smart, swim smart, swim smart, swim smart.
Yo, ICN Underlords, welcome back to the 1/8 gay club. Okay. Why isn't Sven playing? Dude, it's Patch Notes. Patch Notes is so much more hype than gameplay. If you want gameplay, you gotta check out another streamer for... Honestly, you can bounce for like 2 hours. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna play... Maybe 2 hours is too much. Maybe an hour and a half, but there's so many patch notes. I have to read, like... There's so many. Okay. So... this is so hard to evaluate. It really is. Demons are a really interesting alliance now. I think at a certain point, I do just have to try it out.
I'm basically 1/8 gay.
I think this is a really interesting concept. I'll have to try this out. Demon Hunter is removed from the game. Demon Hunters have taken up other jobs.
Gifted a tier 1 sub to Esteban Ban.
Yo, Soul Dirge. Yo, thanks for the gift subs, buddy. If you can tank up Legion, just let Legion steal all the demon buffs by frontlining her. Dude, that could be sweet.
I'm basically 1/8.
But if she's frontlining, she's gonna be hard to keep alive. Dude, that is actually so crazy. Okay. Yo, welcome to the 1/8 gay club, guys. Spout, Omega Cow, Esteban, Giman, Slep GCE, Grims BG, Semeka, Melu, Hapilar, and Pawnstar. A lot of regulars in that list, actually. Surprising. Purge spends 12 hours minimum on Dota 2 patch notes. Yeah, but I'll never live up to Purge. I can't. As much as I'd like to try. Okay, so Demon Hunters have new alliances. What are the new alliances on these two Demon Hunters? You guys can just kind of tell me, because Anti-Mage and Terrorblade. You say, someone said Terrorblade is now a Hunter Demon? Yo, that's crazy. Okay, so Hunters might be insane. Dude, if Terrorblade is a Hunter, AM is an Assassin. Okay, so AM is now an Assassin and Terrorblade is now a Hunter. That's a monumental buff to Hunters, right? Which, I mean, to be fair, they needed a monumental buff. Okay, Elusive. Old elusive units gain 25 and 50%. New, all elusive units have a 10 to 20% chance to gain 100% evasion and 35 attack speed for 3 seconds when attacked. So the EV on this, whether it's higher or lower, is going to depend on the opponent average attack speed. If their attack speed is high. So when attacked, does this mean it can reapply the buff even when the attack misses? Because that's a big... If we're calculating whether this is better or worse, or under what circumstances this is better or worse, a big factor, there's two big factors. The opponent attack speed, which is a variable we can't really account for, but we can take an average for. And the second is, can this proc off of an evaded attack? Because it says when attacked. I would assume it can't proc off of evaded attacks. Okay, so new elusive units gain, you know, let's just evaluate tier 1, because they double up on both tiers. It's a 10% chance to get the evasion. But they take the first hit, right? Oh, that's a third factor. Do they take the first hit that procs this? Or do they not? Because that matters as well.
You don't need to.
Thanks.
This is the hand warmer. You can press it while I think to turn it off, but just in case.
Okay, so... Alright. That human bonus, hello mages. Give me a sec. Okay, Yusu is working his magic. He's gonna figure out like how this elusive progress breaks down. I'm gonna come back to this in just 1 second. So human. So this is quite interesting. So human. All human units used to have the silence attack, and now allies generate 4, 7, 10 mana per second. So this is fascinating. Whoa. So they've reworked human, which I think I like, and this is a rework to Crystal Maiden. I was saying the jail system means they're going to have to rework certain alliances to make them less dependent on specific heroes, and the easiest culprit of that is Crystal Maiden and mages, and they did that. They have human generating mana per second. That's a cool. I think that this is kind of better. It makes mages a little more... It reduces RNG in fights, which you could argue is a good thing. I think most people would feel is a good thing. But the interesting thing is now knights are kind of stuck with mana regen that I don't know if they can use. So one really important thing to note about this change, like, I think the most important thing to note about this change that probably you wouldn't think about immediately is that it fundamentally changes the concept of this buff in terms of how it scales. Immediately, the human buff only scales with the humans that do the silences, right? So if you have 2 humans, like, let's think about the scaling here. If you have 2 humans, it was 20% per those 2 humans. And if you have 4 humans, it's 44% per those 4 humans. So you're more than quadrupling up when you go from 1 to 2. Now, suddenly, when you go from 1 to 2, you're less than doubling up. Like, think about that. So humans went from a kind of confused build-around alliance, because they buffed only other humans, to a splash alliance. Now, not only does it scale less than linearly, it goes 4, and then it goes 3, and then it goes 3 again. It scales less than linearly. Suddenly, like, you have something that buffs the entire team. All allies. So this is kind of more... It literally fundamentally changes the concept. It's more like Heartless or Scaled, where you're buffing all allies. Okay? And what this means is, like, suddenly humans could be a decent splash in certain things, right? Like, that's the most important thing to understand here. And of course, like, you can look at mages and you'd be like, wow, they get mana instead. And you can look at knights and you can be like, well, do they really need mana? And those are both true, but... Suddenly, this is splashable. A big deal. I can't say exactly how good this is. 4, 7, 10 mana per second is quite big. I mean, mages are going to be at 4 humans, and that's 7 mana per second, which is huge. I mean, that's the same as Crystal Maiden, right? I believe that's the same. These are I believe the same exact numbers as Crystal Maiden, because Crystal Maiden was 8 mana every 2 seconds, and then 14 mana every 2 seconds, right? CM is in jail, so let's see. Well, she has Frostbite now, so we can't see. That makes sense. Okay, I'm on board with this change. I think that, like, you know, humans didn't really... The concept of a chance to silence didn't really make sense to be a build-around alliance that only buffs other humans. That was kind of weird to begin with. This kind of keeps mages alive. It's weird in knights. Primordial. So now, yeah, wow. They actually did just put rank 3 eidolons in the game. So you now have a 6 of with rank 3 eidolons. Now, again, with scaling... Scaling is a really important concept to understand. I'm going to have to redo this entire page, but when I was initially looking at like how certain, like doing the math on how certain things scaled, which isn't to say that, you know, this is always going to be kind of the end all, you know, determinant of value. But when we look at these charts, and this is like I guess I'm just calling this an info hub. I need a better name for this. We can look at like the scaling of primordials is kind of out of this universe. It's kind of the best out of anything ever, which isn't to say that primordial 1 is... It's not to say that pair of primordials, or sorry, tier 2 of primordials, which is 4 primordials, it's not to say that that's super good necessarily, but more like primordial 1 is really bad. So you look at average scaling, and I think scaling is a really important concept to understand when you're evaluating any of this. Normal scaling for a support alliance is basically doubling up, right? You see that with Heartless, you see that with Scaled, you see that with Human. You know, the quad does twice as much as the pair, roughly speaking. Human, it's a bit less. With Heartless, it's probably a bit more on average. With build around alliances, it's kind of more like quadrupling, because usually you're doubling the amount of buffs and you're doubling the amount of units picking up that buff. So you're quadrupling up, which is why, 6 elusive, 6 hunters, 6 assassins, 6 warriors, these are the build around alliances. You're quadrupling up. With Primordial, going from 2 to 4 is more than quadrupling up, because you're doubling your units that pick up the buff, you're doubling the Eidolon's attack, and you're doubling the Eidolon's health as well, which... Again, this is not to say that 4 Primordials is good, because it wasn't good. But 2 Primordial was really bad. But now we've got 6 on potentially the best scaling alliance in the game. Now I'm gonna need Yusu. I'm gonna need his magic to see what the DPS on Eidolons is. Actually, they probably have Eidolon stats somewhere, because they usually do have Eidolon stats. But if rank 3 Eidolons are a redoubling of rank 2 Eidolons, this could actually be a build. It actually could be. Which is something I never thought I'd say about Primordials. Which is interesting. They would be the best scaling build in the entire game. Eidolons have the same stats with double HP equals Eidolon stock. Do they actually? Or is that like from these patch notes? We'll have to come back to this later with confirmation. Okay, so Yusu gave us some info on elusives just now. I think elusive can only trigger off of hits. So we can kind of look back at elusive. Elusive can only trigger off of hits. So you look at new elusive, it's a 10% chance to gain 100% evasion for 3 seconds. Which is interesting. So the biggest difference this changes is it means elusives will kind of work better as a main tank. If you imagine like tier 1 elusive, let's think 3 elusives on your board. Before it's like 25, now it's 10%, but for these amount of attacks for 3 seconds. So the way to skew this change in your favor is to get a lot of attacks on a specific unit, which means a single tank, right? So for example, I can have a board with 3 elusives and... maybe that can be a kind of like tall front line, like a narrow front line. And maybe one of them can be a main tank. Everything attacks it. It will proc this once before it dies, at least, maybe multiple times. And for 3 seconds, everything else is stunned. This is a big deal. So again, the most important thing to think about first is it's not about how it changes the math. It's about how it changes the concept. It's about how it changes the role. Because now, all of a sudden, elusives as a concept is more incentivizing you to get more attackers on singular units, which lowers the scaling value of this. It looks like the same double up. It looks like 25 to 50 and 10 to 20, right? But it's not. It's not the double up at all. Because now, suddenly, before, it's like you're buffing twice as many units. But now, when you're buffing twice as many units, it's not going to help you that much because you're still really incentivized based on the rules of this to have a very kind of narrow front line. You want every attacker to be on like 1 or 2 units, so that you're able to basically get 3 seconds. It's like a 3-second stun, almost. Like, when everything is attacking the same unit, and that unit has evasion, this is similar to the old Evasion Alliance item, if you guys played long enough to remember that, they don't do anything. They are attacking a unit that they can't stop attacking, that they can't hit, that they can't gain mana with by attacking. When this procs, and when everything's attacking this elusive proc, it stuns the entire enemy team for 3 seconds, basically. They can still cast spells if they get mana from something else. But it is almost a stun, which is a big deal. So I see this as maybe a role change. It does feel a bit like you're more incentivized for 3 than 6, which is the opposite of how it was before. Maybe. I could be wrong about that. We'll have to see. But yeah, okay. So moving on, we've got Savage. Attack damage gain decreased from 7, 15, 25 to 4, 8, 15. So they mentioned, I think, that they were going to nerf it back to what it was before, and this was a holdover. This feels bad. I mean, any flat numbers are kind of going to get worse because everything has double HP, right? If everything has double HP, then these numbers are really low. Now, the one thing, though, about Savage is they now have the ability for 6 of, and they now have Elusive, or now they didn't have Bristleback. So Bristleback is a hero. We'll cover him when we cover him, but he makes Savage a lot better, so it sort of ends up balancing it out that they get worse here. I think with this nerf and with the fact that everything has double health and the ratios haven't been compensated, I don't expect Savage to be very good. Tool tip in game is still the big numbers. Interesting. I think Savage still uses old values, so spam Savage. Interesting. So you like 7, 15, 25, you mean? Like this is basically bugged and is not registering the updated values? Okay. So maybe that could be something for you guys to abuse today. I assume that's going to be fixed out today. Like there's going to be a lot of very minor things. There's going to be some hotfix, I assume, later today. That's going to be just like cleaning up a couple of things, but it could be tomorrow. Okay, Shaman. Old Shaman, units attacking Shaman have a 17% chance of being turned into a chicken and hop 4 cells. So 4 cells is 500 millisecond per hop, I believe, if Yuzu might be able to correct me on that. I think he data mined it and found it was 500 milliseconds per hop, so that's 2 seconds. New, now it's hop 2 to 4. Each Shaman can only turn each enemy chicken.
I'm basically 1/8
Wait, isn't this a nerf? They nerfed this hops, and they nerfed it so it can only chicken it once? Did they just nerf Shamans? What the... Okay, so don't run Shamans. I mean, Shamans were already unplayable. What the... Maybe the Enigma Ace... They must have changed the Ace. That can only be... That has to be the explanation, right? That they changed the Ace? Why would they nerf this? Okay. If Ace isn't good, then this has to be terrible. Yo, welcome to the 1/8 Gay Club, Mihaika95. Okay, the limitation was always there. Oh, the once per battle. Yeah, the once per battle limitation was always there. You're right. I do remember that. It was something that wasn't in the game. Okay, but it's nerfed because you only do 2/4 now. I mean, you need 4 shamans to do what 2 shamans did before. Like the half duration is a big deal. It really does matter. And it was already weak. It was already like a 1 in 6. So I don't really like that. New items. Here we go. Tier 3, Assassin's Veil. Wasn't that an artifact item? Tier 3, equipped hero always attack the enemy Underlord of Fable. Equipped heroes attacks against the enemy Underlord remove 10 hype. Whoa! 3-second cooldown, so only every 1 out of 3 attacks will remove 10 hype. This is interesting. It doesn't actually give stats. So, I mean, this kind of seems OP until you realize it's a tier 3 that doesn't give stats. So... I wonder if they copied the art from Assassin's Veil. Maybe that's how they're relaunching Artifact. They're just going to like use the assets and just throw them at this game instead. Okay. So it's like you target the enemy Underlord first, which is good because when their Underlord dies, so it's almost like chess-like a little bit, where the Underlords are kind of like your king a tiny bit. Because remember, there's this mechanic in the game where when the Underlord dies, your Underlord gains double hype. So if you can kill their Underlord early, maybe gaining double hype is nice. However, I kind of suspect that because of how hype works as a mechanic, unless your Underlord has a specific build, because it doesn't consume when you cast spells, right? So, like, if you kill their Underlord at the start of the fight, yeah, you cast all your spells, like, maybe twice as fast, like, half as many seconds, like, you know, your time to cast is halved. I guess, I don't even know if it doubles it from all sources, so time to cast might be less than halved. And then, like, your cooldowns start earlier, so you got better odds at, like, casting a second time. But, like, I'm imagining this. It's like you put it on your unit, you target their Underlord down. Like, they'll still take, like, at least 5 seconds to die. That's optimistic. Let's say they take, like, 10 seconds to die. Then suddenly, like, the fact that you kill them and get double hype doesn't matter much. Now, you might say they're a powerful unit, so killing them is just worth it based on that. And that's probably true. It's so hard to evaluate this. I literally can't say whether this item is good or bad without looking at Underlords. I will say I don't expect this item to be super good. It's sort of designed to be a little weak. It's kind of like, it's a bit obnoxious design. It's sort of unfun to play against, but it gives you the feeling of being able to counter something. So if I had to guess, I would assume this is not a super good item. It does look kind of good, but again, tier 3, no stats. I mean, compared to Skullbasher, get back to me. Celebratory Murder Gong. Tier 2, every time the equipped hero gets a kill, they generate 20 hype for your Underlord. Whoa! Okay. Interesting. So again, it's hard to say how valuable that is. I mean, I like that you can put it on something that's getting kills, and it's an item that's not called Poaching Knife. Those are cool concepts together. It's like you want to put it on something that's getting kills. 20 hype could be good. Maybe your unit is something that gets a kill like early on into a fight, right away. This could be better. I mean, it's only tier 2. It's quite interesting. Tier 2s have this like weird identity of almost being like heavy on utility items. It's like but basically all the tier 2s get better the later on you pick them. You kind of don't, like, again, this is another tier 2 that you probably don't want to be finding early in the game. It's like most tier 2s you really don't want to be seeing on turn 2 or turn 3. Like a large amount of tier 2s, and these are the ones we often don't pick, but a large amount of the tier 2s are stuff we could pick on like 10 or 15, but you can't really take that early. Okay, so health bonuses all got doubled. So it works on items too. Yeah, I guess, I mean, items are kind of less hype than heroes, but just because I'm already at this point in the, I'll finish up looking at these, because this is the end. And then I'll go back to hero changes, which we can do now. Okay, Big Ten Contractor got double health. I've got to get double health. Makes sense. They double health values across the board. So the most important thing about this to understand is like anything that gives flat health got relatively worse. Anything that got flat attack relatively got worse. Basically everything else. This is sort of like power creeping isn't the right word, of course, but it's sort of it basically nerfs anything that doesn't get changed because like all health values, item health and unit health all got doubled. Tarrasque looks OP now. Potentially. I mean, it picked up this doubling as well and it's percentage based. I don't think that really makes it OP. I mean, the percentage is happening on like a fairly low percentage. It's getting a bit better, I guess. That's even arguable. Fall from Grace got removed. So this is what some people were thinking, that Fall from Grace might get removed. I wonder why they felt like they needed to do that. Because I think Sunspan was saying like they removed Summoning Stone, they're removing some Alliance items. I kind of liked the concept of Fall from Grace. It was like a cool design. It wasn't overpowered. I don't see a reason to remove this. It's interesting. Humans is good now, but why remove this? If anything, that's less of a reason to remove it. I don't know. I don't see the logic there. Like, because in something like Knights, so basically this is a big nerf to Knights. Knights didn't really want new humans. They want new humans, maybe arguably less than old humans. I'm not sure about that, but possibly. So this Fall from Grace could have been good for Knights. They've got even the additional human in the case of Sven. Yeah, so Fall from Grace is just out of the game. F for Knights players. Yeah, rip. And Knights are basically the only alliance that really hates this. Yeah, I don't understand the idea behind this change. I understand that you guys are saying it got changed because humans got changed, and I mean I get that's why it's happening now, but that's the timing. But what's the logic? Like, I don't understand the logic. I'm kind of sad. I mean, Fall from Grace wasn't a good item. I guess maybe the logic is they don't want too many items in the same tier, so they're adding like Murder Gong in tier 2, and they don't want to overcrowd tier 2. I guess. I don't know. It got changed because there are more Heartless heroes now. But is that logical? I mean, there's more Heartless units and there's more human units, but I mean, on average, the average won't increase by that much because of the JL system. I mean, it's an interesting design. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about this. Healing Word got doubled. This item's trash. I mean, everything's getting doubled, but anything that stays the same is effectively getting halved, rather. And Healing Word, it was trash before. It's going to continue being trash. Heart of Tarrasque, some people are arguing might be a little bit better than before. And hey, look, now suddenly you're going to find more tier 5 items. Like, you know, tier 5 odds are going up. You get your free Smuggler on round 30. So suddenly, you're going to actually have to start caring about which tier 5 items are good and which ones are bad. So Heart could actually get a boost from this, from like higher percentage of health. Like, you're getting more health per second. Sure. Mechanism heal got doubled. You know, it's staying the same. Tombstone armor goes down to 10. And that is effectively getting worse, right? Because the thing is, when you're looking at these health redoubles, you're not just comparing like damage items. You're comparing the opportunity cost, right? Like, okay, because that's anything that got doubled, and anything that didn't get doubled is left behind, right? That's very obvious. So it depends. The context of evaluating these is going to depend on the context of whatever the opportunity cost is at the time. So we can look at Brawny, and we can say Brawny effectively kind of stayed the same, and anything that got better got worse. If you look at mages, you can say mages get a little bit worse because they rely a lot on burst, and you can evaluate comps in that way. When you're looking at items, it's a little different. Because it's not about like when you need health and when you need damage. It's more about what's the best item in the pack. And items that, like, I mean, these items are doubling up in value, and other items that aren't doubling up are losing some points. Now, some of them aren't a double up. Like, Contract is like you're doubling health, but health is a small aspect of why you play it. Vanguard, you're doubling health, but health is a small aspect of why you play it. But Mechanism is truly, like, almost doubling up, right? Maybe doubling up. Heart is, like, you might argue more than doubling up, right? So it's really interesting to think about, like, the heroes and items have completely different logic behind their opportunity cost. So we have to value how the health doubling affects them in different ways. So like I can look at this tier 4, it's going to be, I mean, there's not other tier 4s that are doubling up. So it's not like Tombstone gets worse because of that. But I think now that it's down to 10 armor, it's a lot more balanced. Tombstone was super OP when it came on the table. Honestly, not as OP as some people were making it out to be, but it was very good. And when it got nerfed to 1 cell radius, it got worse, but ironically, it wasn't as bad as people thought it was after that too. Basically, the moral of the story is people are always going to exaggerate one way or another. But now it's like, it doesn't feel very good. At 10 armor, it's going to be harder to fit in. And Vit Booster hits that double up as well. Which is interesting, because I mean, something like Chainmail is going to be more valuable because heroes have double HP. Tombstone's HP also got doubled. Okay, that's very interesting. So every unit and contraption's HP got doubled, right? So yeah, I guess I thought it was just, yeah. Okay, so Tombstone's HP got doubled. Sure. Okay. That makes sense. That's why they nerfed its armor. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That would have been kind of OP if they kept it the same. I should have realized that. Okay, so yeah, Vip Booster, maybe I can actually start taking this over some other items. But the thing to understand is, like, you're looking at tier 1 items, you're like, okay, well, double health, Chainmail's a bit better. Double health, even Tranquil Boots is maybe a bit better, because Tranquil Boots kind of scales as a function of time. Double health, Claymore possibly gets a bit better. Not as much as some of the others. So maybe Vip Booster could overtake some of the other options now. But the thing is, like, pretty much everything scales with health. You have to understand, right? So, like, double health, Vip Booster, and nothing else is changing, right? So you can look at this and be like, Vip Booster's power creeping. But you have to understand the fact that there's double health means Chainmail, you know, Hood kind of gets better, sort of, depending on how you're looking at it. You could argue Hood gets worse, but it depends on how you look at it. And that's items. So we're kind of doing this a little backwards. We needed to do the alliances first. We needed to do the double health even before then. And then here's the unit changes. And we're going to start from the top where we left off with Dazzle. I'm actually going through this faster than I thought. I guess we're going to start being able to get into a game in just probably like 30 minutes, right? Okay. Dazzle, Troll Healer, Tier 2. Shadow Wave, what it does in Dota. Applies to 3, 4, 5 allies that are 3 cells apart, healing each ally for 80, 140, 200. And it does the damage on 1 cell away for 80, 140, 200. The most important thing about the scaling is that it's good scaling, right? This is a very, very powerful scaling ability. So you look at, you know, not only are you increasing the targets, but you're increasing the damage. You're almost doubling the damage, and you're increasing the targets by a solid 33%. So the total impact is more than double. And then you look at the cooldown on top of that, and you're like, wow, 10 to 8, that's a big difference. 8 to 6, that's another big difference, right? So these are high impact breakpoints on cooldowns. It's like Tiny's toss cooldown follows kind of a similar thing. So getting like a level 2 Dazzle is going to be kind of important for him to be decent. And I wonder if level 3 Dazzle could actually even be decent. Like, what's the scaling? So it's 4 by 120. So 4 by 120, or sorry, 140. I don't know why I said 120. 4 by 140 is what? 560, and 5 by 200 is 1,000. So, I mean, that's a double up, right? 4 by 140 is, yeah, that's 560. So it goes from 560 to 1,000, and the cooldown lowers by, you know, this percent, it's 25%, which is a big deal at this small cooldown. If it's like 15-second cooldown and it goes like 15, 13, 11, that's terrible. But Dazzle could actually be level 3able, possibly. That being said, Witch Doctor also has like pretty decent scaling, and I don't really 3-star him, so yeah. But basically, where Dazzle fits in, I would put this in Knights. When I was looking at Troll Healer Knights, kind of sort of the way that fits into things, I was looking at Knights and I was like, okay, Knights can run Healer pretty well because they use Dazzle for the Troll instead of Witch Doctor. They use Necro for their Heartless to pair healers, and they complete healers with the Omni Knight that they have built in. Dazzle completes Troll, you don't need Witch Doctor anymore. We keep the bat right on the board. Everything makes sense. But looking at Healer, 30% feels kind of low. Like 30% on just a couple heals. I still feel like that's a good way to build Knights. Like, you're not going out of your way for these alliances. You're still being efficient with your alliances. You're getting Healer without wasting an alliance, right? Which matters. You got Necro on Heartless with Abaddon, and you got Dazzle on Troll. No alliance is being wasted. So I think that's still a good way to play it. But the Demon Lady also has a heal. Yeah, the Demon Lady also does have a heal. That's true. And I do think you run Demon Lady in Knights. I almost forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, I do think Dazzle fits into Knights. And I don't think 4 Trolls is really going to be a thing. The one thing to understand, for those of you guys who played Auto Chess, you'll remember 4 Trolls sucked, and then they added Dazzle as a 5th Troll, and then suddenly 4 Trolls was pretty decent because you had a comp that didn't have to run Shadow Shaman, or in some cases possibly Bat-Rated, depending on if you were Knights or not. But really, you don't have to run Shadow Shaman, and that allows you to run 4 Trolls, and it's not that bad. However, I'm a little skeptical. I don't know. Maybe 4 Trolls could be actually solid now. A lot of it is going to come down to jail. I mean, there's so much of it comes down to jail, man. Like, the jail of the day, like, anything is kind of more viable. It's very interesting. So, yeah, 4 Trolls could be decent. And honestly, if you're going 4 Trolls, Dazzle and Witch Doctor, you're probably 3-starring. The progress on these is good enough to 3-star when you actually have enough of an attack speed buff on them. Because they actually get their value on the plus attack damage with the attack speed. So, Magnus, Shaman Brute. This unit seems kind of horrible. This seems... I mean, Shaman is a trash alliance now. and Brute is something I personally don't have faith in already. And Empower is... Okay, so it's 0 mana, 7-second cooldown means you're using this on 2 units. Isn't this just like trash? I'm just going to say this is trash and move on. I see nothing good about this. If we assume Cleave works the same way it does with Battle Fury, it's not the same way as it would in Dota. Cleave hits 2 perpendicularly adjacent tiles to whatever you're attacking from your attack vector, I guess. Which, I mean, that's trash. And, you know, he goes, when he's level 2, it's 50% damage. We don't know if this targets closest ally. Yuzu might be able to figure out that information. If it targets like closest ally like Ogre and Wisp with Tether. And if it does, I mean, it's a bit better, I guess. But this just doesn't seem good, right? 80% is good for damage. Yeah, well, you don't look at 80 because you're not 3-starring this unit. But you look at 50. 50% is cute. But I mean, this is this entire hero's purpose. He's almost tagless. He has one ability, which Yusu saying he's assuming is working like an Ogre, which I would assume too. That would make sense. That's how they want ally targeting to be, is like closest on a buff, closest unit. So you can choose who it targets maybe. I don't know. I mean, 50% is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But it's like Cleave. You're probably going to want this on a ranged unit because ranged DPSs are just better than melee DPSs. And even if it's melee, Cleave is kind of useless. So it's like, this is literally a one-job unit. He has no alliances. He has no stats to speak of. His stats will be decent, but he's tier 2. They're not going to be good. And he's, you know, Magnus, who kind of has middle-of-the-road stats in Dota. And it's just 50% damage. It's like, what, you're using an entire unit slot on your board for this. This has to be garbage. He has good stats. I'm sure he could have better stats than I think, but that wouldn't make him not garbage. Okay. Weaver. Insect Hunter, tier 2 with Shikuchi. So we've seen this. Shifts out of invisibility, goes to a target up to 3 cells away. 3 cells away. Is that a bit shorter than Waveform? I think Burrow Strike is 4 cells. Isn't Waveform also 4 cells, or is Waveform 3? And he deals a bit of damage. Not a lot of damage. So it's kind of like a really shitty Waveform. But it costs 20 mana. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, there we go. There's the kicker. 20 mana. Okay. Whew. Wow. So this is an obnoxious fucker. Like, he kind of... So I'm looking at this, I'm comparing it to Morphling. It seems very similar. It's like a tier 2, you know, he's got a similar ability. You probably want to frontline him. You got a level 2 Weaver early. You frontline him, he disengages, and he'll do it again, I'll fight. And it goes to a... I mean, the cooldown scales pretty well. When you have a level 3 Weaver, you know, he's got the Hunter Alliance. This is an alliance where you want to be level 3 in your stuff. You've got this cooldown going out of 4 seconds. Each second counts when your cooldown is this low. And on top of that, you know, it's like you're so unkillable. You're going to like Shikuchi here and your Shikuchi there. That being said, I'm not sure based on how... I mean, if you're in Hunters, like, I assume you're going Weaver probably. Maybe. You've got a lot of options with Hunters. We'll see. I don't know if I'm a big believer here. First of all, I think the Insect tag is probably a little weak. That would be my guess. There's so many variables, who knows? But I would guess it's a little weak. So we look at this 20 mana. Is that better than Waveform? I mean, you don't really want... So if Shikuchi works like it does in Dota, it probably has a noticeably longer animation than Waveform, which means less time to attack. And once you've Waveformed once, you disengage. So like the low cooldown and low mana cost, which work together to make this spammable, when you're disengaging, it's like, are you using this again? You're getting less time attacking. I kind of like... I don't honestly think this is going to be that amazing of an ability. I mean, like I said, if you're in Hunters, 3-star Weaver can be part of your range, absolutely. But, like, health is being doubled, so this damage is worth, like, even less. His animation will be longer than Morphling, and he'll be, like... I don't think you can even really spam this. Because if you play Dota, you know Shikuchi actually has, like... It's not... It doesn't take a long time, but Waveform is, like, almost instant, right? He got Hunter Alliance though, so mana shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, it feels like I'd just rather have Waveform as an ability. This unit might just have better stats than some like Morphling though. And of course, obviously, it's an unfair comparison because at the end of the day, it's like Weaver belongs in Hunters and Morphling belongs in like mages, right? Like, or assassins. So they're not really directly comparable in that way. Like I said, if you're in Hunters, Weaver's a good unit. If you're not in Hunters, Weaver's a bad unit. It's kind of that simple. But in terms of like... I feel like he is just probably worse than Morphling. It has a really fast animation. Okay, that's surprising. It's live already. I see Savage playing it. Yeah. The game is like fully live right now. I'm gonna start a game in probably like 20 minutes when I'm done with these heroes, but I'm not gonna play until then. So if you want to see gameplay, you do have to watch someone else like Savage for like 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, Io. Now you guys know if you've been following these trends, the reveals, you know I don't have huge expectations for Io. Tier 3 tether. Io tethers to the nearest allied unit, pulls itself towards it. Io and the tethered unit gain 50, 80, 100 attack speed. Bam! There it is right now. 80 attack speed. Oh my god. They actually did it. They did it, the sons of bitches. They actually did it. So if tether gets broken, it's a 2-second cooldown. And that'll happen basically if the unit gets tossed away or something. Holy shit. They actually did. It's a moon shard. What? What? Oh my god. Dude, are you kidding me? I was jailed today? Okay. I guess I won't be able to play it today. Dude. What the hell? So like, I mean, so basically, in terms of how DPS works as a concept, 80 attack speed is 80% DPS. So like, let's say I'm in Knights and I have a Luna 3-star that doesn't have any attack. Let's say it does have a bit of attack speed modifier. Let's assume I'm pairing Trolls. So it's not going to be 80% DPS. It'll be a little less than that because it doesn't scale off the attack speed that's providing the DPS from any additional attack sources. So it's going to give me like, let's say a 66%, it'll be somewhere in that vicinity, attack speed buff. So like, let's say I'm in Knights, I have a level 3 Luna, putting a level 2 Io on this board, just for tether, fuck these alliances, fuck this ability, just for tether, is increasing her DPS by about 2/3, by about 67%. That's like, it isn't quite having a second level 3 Luna, but it is in the vicinity of that. It is like fairly close to almost having a second level 3 Luna with just a level 2 Io. Like, you have to understand, when you're doubling attack speed, DPS wise, you are basically cloning that unit. That's why attack speed is so valuable on 3-stars, because you're cloning it. But what the hell? Yusu's pointing out it's 72% with trolls. Okay, Yusu's got the numbers. It's 70. It'll be 72% if you have like a troll pair, but that's like Jesus, dude. And like, it's so hard to break this tether too, and it's only 2 seconds. Like, it'll retether, but it'll retether to a it'll retether to a newest nearest allied unit. It won't retether to the same one. So if you do like toss something away, you can disrupt this, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, you shouldn't be tethering to a frontliner. You're messing up if that's what you're doing. And the damage, I'm not even looking at the damage reduction. I guess that's a neat thing, but that probably won't matter. LC IO, does relocate remove tether? I assume so. So it has 100 mana. If the unit dies, it loses tether. And that's a big deal, and you're right. So fascinatingly enough, you put Mask of Madness, it can't tether if it has Mask of Madness. How do you stop it from relocating? You give it Chainmail so it gains mana slower, so you get the tether on longer? Dude, that's next fucking level, right? So you give Io your Chainmail so you relocate slower, so you tether longer, right? Huh? That seems like it makes some sense. You don't want your IO to be taking damage, and IO probably won't take damage faster. You don't want to give it plus damage items, because then it'll gain... When it gains mana, like, you will have a unit that's dead by the time it's full mana, and it'll lose its tether when you're relocating, which is very fascinating. Very fascinating. What? Relocate. IO's ability. Okay, so Primordial Druid... You know what would really tell you guys? If they added Perseverance to this game. Because that was an item in Dota that people I have had some experiences in the past of people getting triggered when I said Perseverance. Lucky for you guys. Count your lucky stars. That's not in this game, okay? Whatever. Okay. Legion Commander. Here we go. And about Io, by the way, I looked at Primordial Druid, I looked at Tier 3, and I looked at her abilities, and I was like, this probably won't be that good. And now that Tether's 80 attack speed, I guess I was wrong. Who knew? I don't know, dude. I will say, she is balanced around the rest of the kind of clunkiness here. Primordial Druid is, as far as we know, not good alliances. Primordial could be maybe decent. We don't know. 6 Primordial, who knows? Druid is not what you want early, and Tier 3 is not what you want on like a support unit. So tier 3 is what you want on like a big carry fucking slap boy, right? Like Lifestealer is now tier 3 and that's better for him. But tier 3, unless you're 3-starring it, these units are kind of bad. Tier 3s kind of have to be 3-starred to be good because they come online a little too late to be 2-starring them for super value, usually. And they're kind of the strongest things you can reliably 3-star. Because tier 4s are, of course, better, but a lot harder to reliably 3-star. Like, when you see tier 3, like, the design concept of a tier 3 unit is something that wants to be 3-starred, basically. And which IO does not. So, it doesn't fit there, and it's got 2 awkward tags, but it's got 80 attack speed, so I guess it'll just hit boards. The fuck, dude? Oh my fucking god. 6 Primordials. I would be surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I think I would be surprised if 6 Primordials were good. I would guess they are gonna be a little weak, but Eidolon scaling is really good, so it's not impossible. Okay, Legion Commander. So the duel on Legion Commander. This hero is very well designed. I love this hero. I think Champion is a fantastically designed alliance. I think it's never. I don't see this being OP. There will be situations where you get Legion Commander early on and she snowballs. And that'll be kind of fun if you get like a Legion Commander 2-star before like the creep round on 10. Like that's pretty funny. Like you'll snowball at a crazy like duel. So it targets the lowest health enemy 1 cell away. They're forced to attack each other for 4.5, 5.5, 4 seconds, whatever. I don't care about the decimals. Neither hero can use abilities. If either hero dies during the duration, the hero winning the duel gains permanent 5, 10, 15 bonus damage. So we haven't known how much bonus damage it was until now. 5, 10, 15. And its cooldown is long enough. It's obviously like a once per fight, obviously. And the ability, a Locked by Dragon Alliance passive, they actually did it. Oh my god. Dude, we talked on the podcast. I think it was, I forget if it was Sven who said it. We were actually saying it would be super cool if she had a Dragon Alliance passive. Dude, that's just cool. Like, that's just so cool. I don't expect this to be good. Let's see. When Legion Commander wins a duel, she instantly heals for 50% of her maximum health. That is just cool. Man, like, this is my favorite designed hero in the entire game. I'm not saying personally I'm planning on playing this hero a lot, by the way, but from a design standpoint, it's like, Champion is just really incredible design. It allows you to think so much about options. Again, so what Champion does, if you missed it, is Champion picks up any alliances you have completed. So all alliance bonuses you have completed, Champion will pick up, which sounds kind of OP a little bit until you realize that completing alliances is worth so much more than picking them up. And Champion precludes you from being able to complete these alliances, right? But she's just great. Like, she's tier 3. This is the perfect tier for her. It's important that she's a tier 3 unit because it makes her kind of hard to snowball early, but 3-starable. That's fun. That's cool. Like, duel is snowballing in a fun way. I do want to bring to your attention the only point of snowballing we have to compare this to in the past in the base game is Brawny, which is health and not damage. There's a really big difference between those because having more health past a certain point doesn't really do much for you, whereas damage as a stat does fall off in a similar way but not nearly to the same degree. Like, more than 1 or 2k health is like kind of whatever, but I mean, let's take the equivalent of that. If you're like past 10 duels, those extra like the 11th duel and the 12th duel you win is still mattering for you. Like, damage is something you can less than have too much of than health, if that sentence makes sense. Savic's current game has a 3-star Legion Commander. Holy shit. And I'm sure like it's gonna be harder to like hit those. I mean, people in these early days are gonna be spamming this unit, but that sounds really fucking funny. Okay, Lifestealer, Heartless Brute, and this is tier 3. So they revealed it as a tier 1 and I guess they changed it to a tier 3. This changes it a lot, by the way. This even changes the concept of Brute as an alliance. Lifestealer is much better as a tier 3. Obviously, assuming that stats are changed relatively to that, right? Because tier 3 is like, so he's Heartless, and he's got a passive that scales with the duration of the game. So this wants to be a late game unit, right? You want to get this passive to 3-star. You know, he heals himself. You get him to 3-star. Heartless is really good at the end of the game, really kind of weak early. You don't care about Heartless in the first 10 turns very much at all. And this information even allows Brute to be more of a maybe even late game option. Now that like we see Lifestealer as a proper late game hero, when you get this to 3-star, he will chunk. He's got like tier 3 stats. You know, he's got Heartless, a relevant, like super relevant tag. Heartless hasn't been changed at all, I guess. If anything, it's kind of more important because everything has double health, right? Heartless got buffed, if anything. That's so crazy, dude. Oh my god. Okay. And we see the scaling is 4.56, which... Is that exactly what it is in Dota? I remember those numbers. Is that how Feast scales in Dota? That sounds right. Although, again, I haven't played in a long time, and they've changed, like, everything since I played. Okay. Bristleback. Now, this is probably going to be a strong hero. So we see Brawny Savage. Now, we know Brawny is, you know, something you can run now. He's tier 4. Any tier 4, it's like... So Bristleback in Dota is kind of like a big puncher. He slaps people. You might know him from Artifact as a casual 8-12. How did that... Can we talk about that? How the fuck did... Okay, point aside, this unit in lore is a slapper. So you see a slapper on tier 4, it's hard for that to be bad, right? He will slap you. You get a level 2 Bristleback on, like, you know, pre-25, you are slapping. That's going to happen. Quill Spray. Let's see. He sprays quills from his back, damaging enemy 2 cells away. It takes 40, 80, 160 damage, along with an additional 60 for each damage of quill spray they have been hit with for a maximum of 5 stacks. So it's got a 3-second cooldown. This is his gimmick, kind of like in Dota. Quill spray is sort of like sticky napalm. Now, one really big difference between napalm and quill spray, it's like they're both spammable, 3-second cooldown, 20 mana, ramp up in damage. The difference is, here's the difference. Quill spray has no animation. At least it shouldn't. So he can do it like while he's attacking and moving. When you compare that to sticky napalm, they're worlds apart. Worlds apart. That's very different. Okay. Of course, you're not getting the slow in there, but that's fine. So let's think about how these numbers are going to play out a little bit. So it's like you get a level 2 Bristleback. Level 2 is kind of when units, you know, are kind of like completed, they're realized. You know, you got your 64 damage per stack, and, you know, you're going to be using it every 3 seconds. So we look at the 10-second mark after you've used it for the 3rd time. They're going to take that 80 plus the additional, like, 64 by 3, which is 192. So they're taking, like, a casual, like, 272 damage. What, like... So one thing is Savage did get kind of nerfed, maybe, possibly. Yusu has pointed out that from what his findings, Savage says that it got nerfed to what it previously was before, but Yusu is saying it seems like there's a bug and it still has its old numbers. So 6 Savage, the next few hours might be the only opportunity to play 6 Savage unironically, by the way. And keep in mind, Savage scale, you get Savage stacks when you cast spells, right? Like when Venomancer uses Gale or whatever. They didn't change that. That makes Quill Spray even crazier, right? He's Brawny, so he fits in for Brawny. He's just got good tags. He's just good. And Yusu's saying he has 10 armor. He has 10 base armor. Oh my god, are you kidding? That's so nuts, dude. Bristle Octarine meta. I mean, probably. The thing is, on a 3-second cooldown, you might not like Octarine that much, but you're at 20 mana and you're going to take some damage. So, like, absolutely we run Octarine on this shit. It's 1.5-second cooldown. Like, you get 1 attack and you got 20 mana. Like, what? You will be hitting that 1.5-second cooldown. That's so insane. That's so insane. What the hell? Now, the one thing here is he does have kind of weak alliances. I don't expect Savage to be super strong moving forward. Maybe it's good if it's bugged right now. And Bristleback will make it better than it is. And Brawny, 4 Brawnies could be okay. I mean, Bristleback is going to bring a lot of value to 4 Brawnies. And maybe that's just how you have to play it, like 4 Brawny. But it's not like he's in an OP alliance. Like, if he was in some like defensive 6-7 alliance, like Warriors or Knights, this would be stronger. But yeah, this is a strong unit. It's impossible for it not to be. Okay. So we look at Broodmother. Next up, Insect Warlock. Tier 4, and we have Spin Web. Spins a web 2 cells wide on top of an enemy unit. Enemies on the web lose 20, 30, 40 attack speed, 80% movement speed, and 50, 75, 100% cast speed. And it costs 100 mana on a 25-second cooldown? What the hell? Wait, this is a 1... So it's a 1 per fight. 2 cells wide on top of an enemy unit? Wait, what? 2 cells wide is really weird phrasing. They don't mean it's a 2x2 grid. I'm pretty sure they don't mean that. I think they mean the radius is 2, so it's a 5x5, I assume. A 3x3? Even 3x3 could be... Wait, is it a 3x3? You guys are saying it's a 3x3? That's so weird. It's a 5x5? Is it actually? Who's seen it in the game? It's a 5x5? Yeah, I mean, that's what I would assume, especially with this like long mana, long cooldown. So it's a 5x5. Slowing attack speed by a lot and cast speed. Now, the very fascinating thing here about Spin Web is it doesn't actually slow attack speed by much, but it slows movement speed and cast speed by a lot. By a lot. So, hilariously enough, you could do some weird positioning. Like, I'm imagining, let's imagine a hunter's comp, all ranged, with, let's say you're linking insects. Why not? Because you've got Broodmother and Weaver, and maybe Jamin a third insect, I don't know. But let's say Broodmother solo tank in front, everything else on the back, and you just spin your web, and then all the melee units will kill Broodmother, and then they're 80% slow movement speed. They're fucking like 1/5 speed asses. To walk 2 tiles, to walk 2 tiles would take, I don't know what the base movement speed is, but that would take like 8 seconds, right? Like what the hell? Buff to barricade? Kind of. I mean, that's actually hilarious. So I see the interesting thing here is that movement and cast speed percents are so high compared to the attack speed. And I like this. I'm glad it's just not some normal vanilla slow. Tested in freestyle. Tranquil Boots, new meta. Yeah, I want to finish these patch notes. Because it's hard to... It's so hard to get into this without like doing anything crazy. We'll see it in the game at the very least. Okay. Faceless Void. Primordial Assassin. By the way, I don't think Broodmother's that good. I think that it's a funny idea running her in Hunters with this slow. That's an interesting way of using this ability. The idea of a tier 4 insect Warlock does not really sound that strong to me. It feels hard to fit in Warlocks. I don't have high expectations for insects. I know they're new. I know they're cool. I know they're interesting. But from a competitive standpoint, I think it's at least somewhat unlikely they're going to be great. They do seem a little weak and hard to link to stuff. And I don't see anything really strong on this unit. But it's interesting, and maybe it leads to some interesting stuff. Good against mages, considering positioning. Yeah, it could also be good for mages. Kind of for the same reason as Hunters. Like, you have a Broodmother up front, and, like... They just waste time walking, right? Okay, Faceless Void. So Primordial Assassin, and he's got the Ace of Assassins. So these are the 2 aces. Okay. So, the Ace effect of Faceless Void. Allied Assassins have a 5% chance per Assassin Alliance level. Wow, it's only 10%. That makes sense. I thought it might be like 15. So to dodge attacks by jumping backwards in time, fully avoiding both physical and magical damage. So this is like backtrack in Dota, and that means that when you're in 6 Assassins, which you pretty much will be, you'll have that 10% chance of backtracking any damage instance, whether it's physical and magical. Although, I guess presumably Pure will still go through it. Can backtrack Pure damage? I don't remember Pure damage going through backtrack, but it doesn't say Pure damage here. It doesn't matter much. It won't affect anything at all. I'm just curious. Yeah, I thought backtrack could backtrack Pure damage, but this doesn't... Maybe this works on Pure and they like copied the code on backtrack and like it just didn't mention Pure. Who knows? But it doesn't matter much anyway. So when you have 6 Assassins, you're going to have your 10% chance, which is, it's easy math. It's like 10% damage reduction on average, which is pretty weak. But I mean, if you're in 6 Assassins, it's not like you won't run it. It's like, it is your ace effect. It will empower you. It's sort of like the kind of Troll Alliance where it is a kind of weak concept, but I expect Faceless Void to have good stats, like really good stats as like a hard carry, you know, agility hero on ace tier. Probably gonna have very good stats, like Troll Warlord for Assassins. You will run this and you will put it on your comp, but the ace effect at 10% is not gonna be super overwhelming. And if you have a 15% chance of finding it, if you have at least 1 level of Assassin Alliance completed. So the interesting thing here is how the aces work. I'll talk about this afterwards. I'll talk about like Sven and Void implications and how to play around them. So Chrono Cube, it's clever play on Chronosphere. It's kind of a funny meme. Stunning all units caught 2 cells away from the center, so it's a 5/5 for 4, 5, 6 seconds. This includes allies. He moves quickly inside the cube and gains 50 attack speed, which of course is like 50%, and that's a big deal, and he's unaffected by it. So what this means is, I mean, the targeting on this, I assume, is going to be the same targeting on every other AoE, which is literally pick a random enemy unit on the board out of the like 6 to 8 that are remaining, and put it at the center. which means there's going to be some situations where like there's going to be a solo assassin that Void will chrono, and he'll chrono your entire team, which is funny. That is funny. Targeting is enemy attacks from testing so far. Wow, interesting. Is that right? Because I know some targeting does enemy attack. Like Slaughter's targeting is the enemy Void is currently attacking. So that's a lot better then. What's interesting about this is the implication Chrono has on your positioning. Just Mask of Madison. That could actually be good. I don't know if Chrono Cube is bad. If it targets what you're attacking, then that's quite interesting. Because you want to run him when you have 6 assassins. But in theory, you're saying good against corner. The problem with good against corner is all your assassins are clumped up just as much. So good against corner doesn't really work. The interesting thing is you kind of want him to not be positioned in the same way that your other assassins are positioned in, right? So for example, if you have more assassins blinking in back, maybe it could make sense for him not to blink at all. And it depends on how his blink animation is, because every assassin, like some blink animations like Bounty Hunters are really long. So if he has high DPS on a long blink animation, maybe you could frontline him and try to not Chrono Cube your entire team in back, maybe. Or maybe you could put him in back and have more assassins in front. Like for example, if you have a Queen of Pain or a Templar assassin, TA is hard because part of the reason you run her is Meld, and she needs to blink for Meld to work. Part of that is hard for Templar Assassin, but maybe Quap, Templar Assassin, Morphling can be less backlined. Maybe they can be kind of like one step behind your front line so that they're just doing ranged attacks and they're not going to be in Chrono Cube. That could make sense. And then, of course, the other thing to consider is how assassins choose their targeting gem. Now, Yusu made a really great write-up on this. If you're an Assassins player, which, you know, I don't know if you are, but the resource that me and Yusu are working on, like the kind of like big info hub, that's going to be kind of a resource for everything in this game, and we're going to have to, it's going to take some time to like bring it to kind of where it wants to be. But on the main page, we have here, you know, Yusu's how Assassins choose where to jump, and I'll link it in chat for you guys here, basically. But the idea is pretty straightforward, and Assassins will jump to the column. They will prefer targets that are closer to the column that they're on, right? Whereas Blink Dagger is the opposite of that. And I actually had that backwards for a little bit of time. So what this means is you're probably going to want, let's say you have Assassins jumping backline, you're probably going to want your Void to be on a different side as your other Assassins if you're an Assassins player and you're thinking about this positioning, because they'll jump more far away from the Assassins on average, which will mean you're chronoing less of your team on average. So Assassins maybe on one side in the back. These are your, like, you know, PA, Slark, maybe TA, and Void maybe on the other side. Could make some sense. Okay. And then we've got Sven. Human Scaled Knight with Ace of Knights. Now, Humans is less valuable than it was before. A lot less. And so I was looking at Sven initially, and I was thinking, that's 3 crazy alliances, all of them hits. That's nuts. But Humans is worth a lot less than it was before, I think. So you're obviously getting scaled with Viper. It's like when you're running Knights. I think the easy way to run Knights, maybe 3 healers is not worth it. I don't know. But it looks like Knights want to run Dazzle for healer Troll, Necro for healer Heartless with Abaddon, Troll with Batrider, and then 9th unit Viper for Scaled with Sven. Sven coming in to replace probably CK if your CK is not 3-starred, maybe Luna if your CK is 3-starred and your Luna isn't. Sven just kind of replacing what you can't 3-star at the end there. And that's pretty good. You know, you'll get 3 humans. There's no Fall from Grace in the game anymore, which sucks. Yeah, I guess you could maybe replace Omni Knight as well. If your Omni Knight's not getting 3-starred, Omni Knight could easily be replaced. So those are your kind of 3 flexible slots, and Sven's going to fill in for one of those, and he's going to link Scaled with Viper. That's kind of how I see Knights is going to be played. Makes sense. When Sven casts God Strength, all allied Knights lose their Knight Alliance bonus and gain 50% damage per Knight Alliance level for the remainder of the round. So Knight Alliance level would be 3, and 50% would be 150%. So they're attacking for 250% damage. So they're literally dealing 2.5 times damage. So your Luna Glaives will one-shot the entire team. Jesus. And of course, you got the 15% chance of finding if you have at least 1 level of Knight Alliance completed. Ability God Strength, Sven enrages and gains 100, 150, 200% damage for 6 rounds. By the way, this thing I keep pulling up, the info hub, is basically just a list of different pages on a spreadsheet that's going to have a lot of information, a lot of useful stuff. I want to work on it a little bit more before I link it. I want to kind of update it for this patch, and I do plan on stuff like jail daily breakdowns on that as well. And I'll start like linking that instead of like my tier list command in chat. And hopefully that'll be useful for a lot of you guys, because there's a lot of like basic stuff there too. Okay, but I think that'll probably be more tomorrow. I already updated. Yeah, Yusu is a godsend. Yusu's just done so much for this project. He's honestly like the probably. I don't want to say the. I don't like making comparisons, but he works the hardest out of anyone in the community I've met. Like, you've got streamers that are all, like, taking breaks because they're like, this game, I'll just take a break. And then you've got Yusu, who's just, like, fucking doing everything behind the scenes, testing things for the devs themselves and just making posts for everyone. Okay. So, God Strength himself, when he enrages, and this, is going to flip the Knights Alliance bonus around. When he enranges, he gains 100 or 150. We're going to assume it's a level 1 Sven. With Void and Sven, you assume they don't get to level 2. So 100% damage, double damage for 60 seconds. 200 mana. Whoa, interesting. Very interesting. Wow, that changes everything. So Sven is the second unit we've seen in the game that has more than 100 mana. The other one being Caudal. And this actually makes sense because of humans. So now humans have kind of this internal mana game. They've decided to say, okay, let's make Sven cost more mana. And I actually I don't mind that. I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't even think this is worse for Knights, by the way. There is an argument that Knights want to not cast. There's a point of the fight between like the 3 and 7 second mark of the fight. These are where the big ults are going off. And there is an argument that you don't even want to ult before that point. You want to like tank those ults and then pop the damage afterwards, which I don't necessarily subscribe to that argument, but it is there. But yeah, so he will God Strength like halfway through the fight, and the Ace of Knights will smash everything. One thing to keep in mind is that with humans is that it's per second, and CM was every 2 seconds. Yeah, I think they're the same numbers, right? Because humans is 4-7 per second, and CM was 8 and 14 every 2 seconds, I believe. So it ends up being the same exact mana per second as CM per level. So level 2 humans is level 2 CM, level 1 humans, pair humans is level 1 Crystal Maiden. Which is interesting. I'm interested in like splashing humans into more competitive comps. And then we've got Cleave, which as far as we can assume still works the same as every Cleave in this game, like Battle Fury's Cleave. I assume it's just going to hit the 2 perpendicular tiles, which makes it kind of trash. But he doesn't really need this ability. I mean, he's got Ace of Knights. He's got God Strength. At the end of the day, like, it's Ace of Knights. If you're in Knights, you run it, you swap out either your CK or your Luna or Omni, whatever's not 3-starable. Out of those 3 units, you put in Sven, you're good. Faceless Void, you're going to swap out something for him as well. I do caution, like, don't feel like you have to keep Morphling on your board just because it's a pair of Primordial. If your Morphling's not going to 3-star, eject his ass for Faceless Void. Don't play for a Primordial pair, use the 3 stars that you're good and eject whatever's not good. Okay. How much more do we have to do? So we have to do, it's just one last section, which is hero changes. That's the last section we have to do before we get into some games. And I'll try to play like a diverse amount of comps today. I'm gonna try to experiment rather than like try hard climbing. I know there's at least some of you guys that want to like try hard climb, swim, race to Lord. I would rather just play, not just for fun, but just to see what's good and what's bad, and maybe try to find new strategies that we might not know. There's some new aces. It's nuts. Wait, there's some new aces here. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so Axe. He's a Brawny Brute now. Makes sense. They stripped a warrior off of Axe and I assume Doom. So Axe is no longer warrior. It makes Brawny weird because no longer do you have the warrior paired, like built inside of Brawny. So it's kind of harder to complete warriors when you're in Brawny. Whereas before it just kind of made more sense because, you had Axe and you had Juggernaut. So it's like, yeah, I get a 3rd warrior. Okay. So does this make Axe better? I mean, I think the warrior tag is probably worth more than the brute tag. Did I say anti-mage? Or, oh, I skipped anti-mage. Okay. No, you're right. Okay. So his maximum mana got changed down to 0. I guess they went through and changed any unit that didn't have a casting ability to 0 mana. Because the thing about passives is there's 2 units in the game that had 0 mana. Those are Arc Warden and Ogre, and they couldn't use Arcane Boots. But you can actually equip Arcane Boots to Anti-Mage. I guess you can't anymore. I guess that's just like a friendly interface thing. I don't know. Mana Break also burns 2/4/6 height from Underlords, which we don't know exactly how much that is yet. I'll have to kind of evaluate that later. And he's an assassin. Holy shit, he's an assassin. Holy shit, he's an assassin. Holy shit! Do assassins have 3 elusives in them? Wait. Is PA and TA both elusive still? What? What? Okay, that's really strong. Holy shit. So assassins have 3 elusives embedded into them. And 3 elusives, I think, got buffed. I think 6 elusives might be worse with new elusives, but 3 elusives might be better. Dude, assassins seem good right now, unironically. Anti-mage is a tier 1. He's a tier 1. Assassins have 4 tier 1s. They have Nyx, they have Anti-mage, they have Bounty, they have Bloodseeker. They have 2 tier 2s on Quap and Morph. They have an Ace. They have an elusive embedded into them. They have Anti-mage, who's a great standalone unit with a powerful ability. Like... I don't know. Assassins actually seem crazy. Bloodseeker's not an assassin. Okay, so sure, they have 3 tier 1s, whatever. Okay, Bloodseeker's not an assassin. That's still crazy. That's a little less crazy, but it's still crazy. I don't know. Assassins look good. Now, the one thing is you might say, okay, but everything has double health, which means in theory comps that like being more bursty might fall off a bit. You can look at mages. Mages is easy one example of that, because everything has double health, so mages are going to be worse unless they get buffed in their own separate ways. How much this applies to assassins is debatable. You can look at it and be like, well, when PA hits like a coup crit, like a coup de grace, you're overkilling most things. So like yeah, and users pointed out assassins used to overkill it by a lot anyway. You could literally say that assassins are almost getting better because of this higher health, because like they're overkilling less things. Of course, when you're overkilling less things, it means on occasion you do have... Overkill is almost necessary, right? Because like when you're overkilling some things, it means other times you're disabling skills from going off. When you're not bleeding as much damage into overkilling, then you are enabling some units to get their spells off before they die. So like overkilling is not necessarily a bad thing, because overkilling one unit means killing another unit before its ability goes off. Okay? I don't know. This seems nuts. Anti-mage is a good unit. 3 elusives built in. Mana Break has a good ability, and it did just get better, I guess. I mean, that's kind of debatable. Assassins look good. Assassins look good. Holy shit. 3 elusives built in. How do you even... What are the other 3 assassins then? I mean, let's say Void at the end. Let's skip Void, because he'll replace, you know, the flexible slot. Like, A and PATA are not core. PA goes to 3. You need Slark, and you're going to want to pair Scaled. So Slark's the 4th one. You're probably going to want... Did Zenking lose his assassin tag? Because people on Reddit... Yes, he did lose his assassin tag. So you can't have Zenking anymore. Quap also loses a lot of her value. She does get worse. Quap, for the sake of being a single demon, does get worse. So maybe it's a bit harder to run. I mean, Morphling and Quap are both good if they're 3-starring. But there's 4 core assassins... One of them will always be banned. Yeah, you always expect one of them to be banned. Read Slark first. Okay, I have to read Slark first before I can design this comp. Interesting. Okay, so we see Axe. I don't see big implications of this. I mean, Brute is kind of better early game than Warrior, maybe. I don't even know if that's true. Yeah, I mean, I do think that Brute finds places as a early game swap out pair. I'm not super excited about the competitive viability of Brute. I think it's probably going to be ahead of Insects on average, but I don't expect Brute to be super good. Lifestealer 3 can carry any late game 4 Brute comp if you really want to do that, if you get up to 3-star. But if you, I mean, the argument of, oh, it's good if you get it to 3-star is like, it applies to everything, so it applies to nothing, right? Like, and that's really important to understand. But yeah, Lifestealer is good. At tier 3, he's a lot better than I thought. So you look at Brutes and you're like, okay, if I've got a Treant early, because Treant's a Brute as well, if I've got a Treant early, I'm definitely going to want to link it with something. So maybe X goes to 2-star, and you'll run him with your situational, like, early transition, if that happens. Like, that's going to happen. I don't know if this is better or worse for X, because Warriors and Brutes are both just early game transition units. Warriors might... I'm not sure how good new Warriors are. Batrider, Sticky Napalm, cell range changed from 2 to 1. So it used to be a 5x5. Cell range describes the effective radius minus 0.5, I guess. It's like the radius after the targeted tile every targeting in this game is using a odd number of tiles. It's like they always have a target tile, like a 1x1, a 3x3, a 5x5, etc. There's no 2x2 or 4x4. So this went from affecting 25 tiles of the board to affecting 9. That's a big deal. You can look at this and you can be like, well, 2 and 1 are numbers that might make it not as bad. It's half value. It's not half, it's less. It goes from 25 to 9. That's a lot closer to a third. That's a really big deal. That's a really big deal. And then, like, you're averaging, like, the amount of units caught in that, and it isn't quite a third. But Batrider would have been bonkers this patch, though, so it's totally justified. Yeah. I mean, I guess fights last longer on average in general, right? Like, burst things don't really exist as much. Everything has double health, but we haven't seen damage scale up. So all fights last longer, which means Batrider needed to be nerfed. That makes sense. Anything that scales with fight length gets better. I mean, the most important thing is the broad strokes, right? I don't want to talk about specific heroes or specific alliances, but macro strategies. Like, what happens to roll value? What happens to level value? What wins? Long fights look like they're winners, but again, Batrider's getting nerfed to compensate. It feels like Bristleback's... It's fucking nuts, because I look at those numbers and what I assume to be his stats. I haven't seen his actual stats. But I assume he will be nuts in a... I don't want to say meta, because this... I mean, we should assume this long fight thing is here to stay. It's not just a meta. It's like, this is a new version of the game where longer fights are kind of more incentivized, which is interesting. I mean, they must have increased, at least by several seconds, they must have increased a bit the timeout threshold of fights, right? Because if fights are all longer, you're going to have, like, probably more fights than they want timing out and roping out. Okay, so Batrider is going to be... You know, I don't want to say weaker. This is a compensation nerf for the fact that he gets buffed by longer fights. So we can assume he ends up a bit weaker or about the same. Bloodseeker, alliances changed from human Deadeye Assassin. I mean, okay, so like health is doubled, so EHP is effectively always going to be, you know, redoubled off of that. When EHP is doubled and damage across the board looks like it's going to be the same, we can expect fights to be twice as long, and this nerf looks like it's a bigger nerf than the redoubling of fight length. So overall, Batrider can be expected to be a bit worse. Okay, Bloodseeker, alliances changed from human Deadeye Assassin to Bloodbound Deadeye. Cool. So this is like, this is actually kind of cool. This is sort of a, this is a suggestion you see a lot, that Bloodseeker should be Bloodbound. Wow. Okay. Sure. I mean, he was kind of holding Assassins back. I don't mind that Assassins are getting new ones in the form of, like, Anti-Mage, who's just a better hero and hits a relevant tag. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, he's in Bloodbound now, and he's in Deadeye, so he's got two weird alliances that are hard to play for both of them. I don't have high expectations for Bloodbound. I mean, they kind of nerfed the shit out of it, right? I'm probably not going to mess around with them too much, and I don't expect them to be good. Deadeye is something that always can find places as, honestly... Deadeye's not bad. Deadeye's kind of... There's been every once in a while in this game where there's a couple top players that actually like splashing Deadeye and stuff. It's never going to be horrible. I don't see a lot of potential in Bloodbound, and for the most part, Deadeye's like situational at best. Crystal Maiden went from tier 3 to 2, so this actually kind of sort of fits in with what I was saying before. It's weird that she's a tier 3 unit. Like, tier 3s by design need to be 3-starring, which isn't to say that it's bad design putting her in tier 3, because that could sort of be a balancing factor. But now that she doesn't have Arcane Aura anymore, and now that's embedded into the Human Alliance instead, she's tier 2 and she's got Frostbite. So, in case of an enemy unit nice, priority movement and attack, you know, last 3 seconds, you evaluate level 2, it's always level 2 on average, so 4 seconds with 125, and they just casually didn't tell us the cooldown, which, I mean, hey, that kind of matters, right? Where's the cooldown, bro? Cooldown 10, 8, 6. Okay, sure, so that's easily a twice per fight. I mean... I think the biggest thing about this is it kind of allows mages to skew a little earlier, right? Like if you want to go right into mages, suddenly you have more options. It's like you've got Puck, you've got Crystal Maiden, you've got Lina. These are your early game mages. You've technically got Razor. He's okay. And obviously, the big caveat to me saying all of this is the jail system, right? I'm saying, like, you know, mages have more early game, assassins have more early game. Obviously, if these units are banned out on certain days, they don't, right? We always have to keep that in mind. That's going to be a game changer, but may just have more potential for early game. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is overall, I would say, a buff to mages. Like Crystal Maiden just gives them the ability to kind of fight for the board earlier. It is single target, which you could argue is kind of good with mages for cleanup, or you could argue it's kind of bad because they have a lot of AoE already. Network is being updated. Is there like a hotfix already? Or is this just like something? Okay, Doom. Lost Warrior into Brute, which is what we expected. We saw he was a new Brute, and we were like, okay, he probably lost Warrior tag. And Doom cooldown went to 20. Whoa, huge nerf. Huge nerf. It goes from like a 2 per fight to a 1 per fight. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. The biggest thing to understand about Doom changes, though, is the fundamental change to the Demon Alliance. Like, Doom used to be... The way Demons... I like this change to the Demon Alliance. By the way, I want to point that out. I've mentioned this... I haven't said this for a long time. I mentioned this in Auto Chess. I personally have felt like Demon in its old form was a fundamentally flawed alliance that I never agreed with its design identity. Which is basically that they're so good that you kind of always want one of them and you never can have more. They're flipping the concept of alliances on their head. They have a game with a fundamental setup for alliances, or the scale with more units you have, and they say, what if we have an alliance that's just one unit and it's reverse of that where you don't want more than one unit? And I think that doesn't really make sense for this game. I think what it does is basically what it does is it skews the game a little bit less synergy and a little bit more good stuffy, because like it's kind of more brainless too. It's like if you're an assassin, you run Quap. If you're in warriors, you run Doom. If you're in some good stuff build, you run some whatever good stuff demon you want, which can be Doom, it can be Shadow Fiend. It depends on the meta. It's been Doom for a while, but you know, if you're just running whatever's good, you just run a demon, and it's just like it's never really been a compelling concept. There's no like, you never look at it and you're like, oh, that's interesting. It's just like, it's there. You're a new player and you're like, oh, I guess demons are just a one of in basically every build that can fit them in, and sometimes they're a 0 of. And I never liked that. So every demon got a fundamental rework. I still don't know what to think about how you're supposed to play for the new Demon Alliance, but you can play a lot of demons now. And now, instead of being in Warrior, it's like Demon's just like, well, I guess I have to run Doom because I'm in Warrior. I hope I hit it. Now it's suddenly like, I mean, the Doom nerf is less than this. And you guys are pointing out that fights last longer, so a 20-second cooldown could happen twice a fight in some cases, sure. I wonder if fights... What's the average amount of duration a fight will last longer? Because the easy answer is 2 times longer, and that can't be true. It's got to be a bit more complicated than that. It'll end up being kind of close to 2 times longer, I think. 1.5 times. Yeah, something in that realm is kind of what I would assume. So you do kind of skew that in, but Doom's still like, you might cast the second Doom at the tail end of the fight, but I don't expect it to be great. Tyler's saying 1.8-ish. Ooh, it could be higher. Not even close to 2 times. Yeah, I don't think it'll be close to 2 times longer. There's a lot more damage because of Underlords on the board too. Yeah, there's more damage on the board. Underlords is probably why they had to double the health on the board. Because more units just means more damage, which is why late game fights kind of last less long than, or late game fights are like faster than early game fights, right? So Doom, it's so hard to evaluate. I mean, do you even run him in Warriors anymore? Now with the new Demon Alliance, you want to run more demons. I want to go back in the end and look at Demon Alliance. I want to remind me, Demon Alliance and, I want to do math on like how Demon Alliance scales. It's so weird. It's so bizarre to think about, and I fucking love it. He isn't a warrior? Oh, yeah, right. Brute, sure. Yeah, Demon Brute, sorry. But the question is, do you run him in Brutes, or... I guess you do, because with Brutes, you just have less options. So, I mean, if you're in Brutes, you have to be in Doom, even though Demon is going to do less if it's a singleton splash. But maybe, like, there could be, like, a Brute Demon board. Maybe, like, 4 Brutes, 4 Demons. Who knows? I don't see that likely. Okay, Eidolon. Rank 3 Eidolons are not possible. Here are the stats. So, minimum... So armor goes up to 15. Minimum, so attack damage minimum and attack damage maximum go up. But its health stays the same? I mean, all their health doubles because all of everything's health doubles. So level 3 Eidolons. You don't get more health, huh? Okay, so it's not as OP as it could be. I would be pretty surprised if Primordials was good, guys. I would be pretty shocked. Oh, it does scale. Oh, Yusu's pointing out it's 600, 1200, and 2400. So they didn't put it in here. What was it before? Was it 300, 600 before? It was 300, 600 before. So they redoubled it because they're doubling every health source, and then they redoubled it again with tier 3 Eidolons, where they're increasing armor and doubling damage. Dude, level 3 Eidolons are really scary. Holy shit. I mean, the thing to understand is, like, all these redoubles multiply together, right? It's like, and this is why Eidolons scale better than any... So Primordial scales the best out of any alliance in the entire game. I think I can just say that right now. That's pretty factual. I'm not saying they're better, but they scale better. Because every time you level them up, you're doubling the amount of Eidolons you get. Then you're redoubling the damage, which multiplies with that. You're redoubling the health, which has some multiplier with the damage. Because, like, the more health you have, the longer you survive to deal that damage. That, like, there is interaction there. And you're getting even more value on your health and more value on your DPS from the increased armor. And of course, when you go from 4 Eidolons to 6, you're increasing your Eidolon count by 50%. You're not redoubling the count again. It only redoubles Eidolon count from 2 to 4. Dude, I mean, and like, I'm looking at Primordials. I haven't actually been to the new rulebook yet. So this is the new UI. We can look at Primordials. Ooh, the colors are weird. Oh, they recolored a few things. I like this. The colors are more distinct now. There were a lot of, like, there were like 3, like, Demon was red and Brute was red. The colors seem a little faded. Okay, so we look at Primordial and, like, zoom out. Oh yeah, I still am zoomed in. Whoops. Guys, it's fine. I'll listen. I'm a professional streamer. The point is, we're looking at Primordials, and, like, they're just representing every different and almost useless alliances. We're looking at Arc Warden, who's Shaman, Enigma, maybe the Shaman Ace makes Shamans worth running, but it's kind of unlikely. Io, who's a Druid, and apparently a decent unit because of the attack speed, but we don't have, like, a great DPS carry for it. Arc Warden is a great DPS carry unless they nerfed him, but attack speed is the one stat he doesn't want from Io. So, like, you look at these 6 Primordials, and they're 7, so you can cut one. And, like, they're all from different alliances. Like, I guess you would complete Assassins because you have Morphling and Void as Assassins, sure. So you'd complete tier 1 Assassins. And I guess you're completing Shaman Ace, which might be decent. And Io is a decent unit. And you're always cutting Razor. I think you have to cut Razor. But then you need both Aces to even be able to cut Razor. It's like, it's so hard. Like, you go out of your way so much for this ability. And it is a strong ability. It is. It really is. Yeah. No, I'll stream along today. No more are the days where I'm streaming like 4 or 6 hours. Guys, we have our video game now.
Oh, I confirmed the thing tomorrow, so you can tell them to come watch it.
Yeah, okay.
It's like 4.
Okay, so I don't scale incredibly well. I mean, I will say it's pretty easy to say if you are in 4 Primordials, you're better off being in 6. Primordial, I can tell you right now, Primordial is kind of either a 6 of or a 0 of alliance. Like, if you're going to be in them at all, you're going to be in 4 or 6. Sometimes in Assassins, you'll have, like, a Morphling level 3, and you'll have a Primordial pair with your Void, but you're not doing that on purpose. You're not, like, you're not like, oh, let's go Primordials. They're just there on your board. So, unironically, Primordials, like, you're either running 0 or you're running 6. Like, 2 and 4 are just bad. 2 you'll have incidentally sometimes. What do you want with 6 Primordials? I haven't designed the comp yet. You're always going to run a 3rd Assassin for sure. Whatever, like, value Assassin can be good. I don't know. I have no idea. Enchantress, she gets the healer attack for free, so she keeps both Savage and Druid. Okay, that's what a lot of people were saying would probably happen. Okay, so people's guesses on, like, Reddit and Discords have actually been pretty true in terms of, like, what gains tags and what loses tags. Enigma... Ace of whoa. Okay. Okay, so there's no Ace of Shamans anymore. Wow, that's really fascinating. That's really fascinating. So they took Shamans, they nerfed them in terms of the hop amount and stun duration, and then they took away their Ace. So Shaman is very literally a non-tag. Like, no exaggeration, like literally a non-tag. But let's check out what this is. Old Ace effect is, who cares? New Ace effect. Allied Eidolons cast Malefice on their killer, stunning them for 0.4 every 2 seconds, and it lasts 2 seconds per Primordial Alliance level. So total, when you have the tier 3, it's going to last 6 seconds for 3 procs of Malefice, which is Enigma's ability from Dota. And that's going to be a total of a 1.2 second stun over that 6 second duration, which, I mean, you could argue is like, you could argue that's better or worse than just a flat 1.6 second stun, depending on how you see it, because it interrupts animation, so it ends up being a total downtime of a bit more, but it's also spread out, so if they have a spell they want to cast, they can cast it, you know, in windows. The target takes 50 damage per Primordial Alliance level each time they're stunned. Whoa! Whoa! It's 150 damage per cast. So it's like, it cascades. It's like when your units die, they summon Eidolons, and when Eidolons die, they cast Malefice. So like, the important thing to understand is like, this is all happening at the very, very end of the fight. And really, really importantly, stuff that happens early in a fight can snowball the outcome of a fight. Stuff that happens at the end has a hard time doing anything. It's like your units die and then you get Eidolons. And then your Eidolons die and then you get Malefice. And then 6 seconds later, Malefice will have paid off in its full. And that's like, that might be like, I mean, if your Arc Warden dies early, you kind of lose. Because like, you're buying yourself a ton of time for your Arc Warden to just win you the fight. But if your Arc Warden dies early, like, buying all this time and stunning all these units is kind of doing nothing, because you're stalling at the end and you have like basically no DPS. I mean, Void is, or maybe Morphling 3 if you get it, could be DPS, sure. But that's crazy. So 15% chance of finding if you have at least one level of Primordial Alliance completed. I'm going to talk about Ace Odds at the end. Ace Odds and Demon. Those are the two things we're going to talk about at the end. That matters a lot because there's interesting ways you're going to want to play Aces on your bench. At Midnight Pulse damage got nerfed. Makes sense. Who even cares? You're not, I mean, if you're, like, at the end of the day, now you're, like, if you're in Primordials, if you're in 6 Primordials, you're playing Enigma, and if you're not, you don't. Which, I'm not sure if I like that, but, I mean, the concept of Aces makes that phenomenon a little hard to escape anyway. That's the downside of it. So, Reworked Chapter, Old Ace of X was terrible. Ooh, here we go, here we go. Is this the Deadeye Ace that we've deserved? It did nothing, basically. Now, pierce their main target, dealing 100% damage per Deadeye Alliance level to the unit behind them. So this is effectively Psyblades from TA, but I assume it's only one cell? So it's like Cleave, but even worse? I mean, this is going to even have a unit to hit probably like 10% of the time. Probably about 10%. Midnight Pulse wasn't nerfed, it was just rescaled for double HP change. Okay, sure. Yeah, I should have pointed that out, but yeah, that's true. Interesting. I mean, this is a bit more useful, I guess. You could argue this is even worse than it was before, honestly. I don't know. I mean, it's still pretty useless. Just position accordingly. Yeah, forehead. Yeah, so this Ace, I don't expect this to do much, but we do have a new Deadeye unit joining us. We have, or sorry, it's not a new Deadeye unit. It's Bloodseeker gained Bloodbound, so kind of makes him maybe possibly better. Kind of makes him worse, actually. Yeah, I mean, how are you going to use this? I mean, like, when it does hit, it's double damage. Okay, so, like, to the unit behind them. So what the hell does behind them mean? Because behind them can mean a few different things. It's easy to look at this and think, oh, it's like Cleave, except for it's the unit behind instead of the unit to choose 2 units adjacent. But that doesn't even make sense necessarily, because Cleave is only for melee, whereas this is ranged. So if Sniper is like, you're like a rectangle corner away from the opponent, what gets counted as the behind? I guess it's the one that's rectangular, which means you're going to be hitting orthogonal directions on this one behind a lot more than diagonal directions, like a lot more. And the next unit in a line behind the main target. Is it like, no matter what you're attacking, is it always like one step behind from your perspective? So like, whatever you're attacking is just one step behind that. It'll ignore armor, so it's not too bad. Do we know it ignores armor? It's 100% damage. Whether it ignores armor or not, like when it procs, it's dealing double damage. It's a line behind. Yeah, I think that would make the most sense if it's literally just like one row behind them, right? One of the ranks. That's what they're called in chess, right? Ranks are... Wait, which ones are ranks and which ones are files? I don't even know. I don't play chess. So to calculate how much of a DPS boost this is, we have to calculate some rough odds of how often this is going to hit. It doesn't seem that high, guys. I mean, so Deadeye is always going to be attacking the lowest health targets. It does seem in the vicinity of like 10%. Right? I mean, you might say, oh, it's as high as 20. Let's say 15%. So 15% plus 100 damage is 15% damage increase. Which, hey, that's a lot better than what it was before. Don't get me wrong. It's just like, it's not good. I do think that Deadeye is a thing. I think you can run Sniper and Gyro together and it actually does something. So yeah, it's like, if you have a Sniper, you know, your Sniper's going to 3-star, like sometimes you'll just randomly kill a unit with that. Because those are big hits, right? So that matters a lot. Okay. So yeah, Keeper of the Light, it actually costs less mana to cast now, which is interesting. So mages have, as far as we know, unless the mage ace changed, mages have the same mana regen as before, right? Level 2 of human is going to be level 2 CM, and level 1 of human is level 1 CM. So you're going to need level 2 human now, which most mage players were already getting in like a 6 mage build. You have to go for level 2 human now, but your Coddle will cast fast. And like, the thing about Coddle, there's a couple things that maximum mana, like early cast does. That's pretty crazy. This is actually pretty crazy. So, the fact that Coddle has a short cooldown kind of changes the meaning of this. This isn't just an earlier cast, it's also an earlier second cast and a more likely second cast. Because the earlier you cast the first one, the earlier you're casting the second one. And Coddle has a pretty short cooldown. Especially in these longer fights, you're going to get like 2 Coddle Blasts to fight. I will say, based on what I know right now, based on the doubling of health and how mages play right now, and Coddle being at 100 max mana, it seems Coddle is 100% integral to mages. Like, mages win condition is getting multiple Coddle Blasts per fight. And so, I mean, what that means is if Coddle gets banned out in a single day, I don't expect mages to really be a viable option. That's what this looks like to me. I mean, 3 mages might splash somewhere, like 3 mages scrappy or something, I don't know. But he seems good. The biggest thing to understand about this is like mages are the alliance that inherently gets nerfed the most. So they needed to buff Coddle to compensate. This is the same compensation that you see when like Tombstone loses armor or something that gives health, which is that health increases go up across the board. So mages, very bursty, very AoE bursty, are kind of shit. So they need to give Coddle mana so they're not super terrible shit. Okay, so Lina, attack rate change from 0.65 to 0.714. So attack rate, that's how many attacks she does per second, I believe. That's so her attack speed goes up instead of the base attack time, which is how many seconds it takes per attack. It should be attacks per second. And she's a tier 3 now, which makes sense now that CM's tier 2. This is kind of better designed because, again, tier 3s are kind of meant to be these 3-starable options. It was weird that they made her tier 2. They were trying to buff mages at the time. But now they swapped CM and Lina. I like this better. This just makes more sense. She's kind of more of a carry. Laguna Blade does a bit of extra damage to compensate. So it's like her attack rate and Laguna goes up to the tier. And Laguna sets targets on fire for 5 seconds. So they actually do have on fire effects. So Dragon Knight's breath probably sets things on fire too. That's interesting. That's cute. Laguna Blade is going to kill like 80% of what it targets. So I kind of don't see the point. I mean, that's not really useful. Like, out of all the abilities you could make set target on fire, like, obviously this is like a fiery ability, but the concept of adding a dot on your, like, mid to late fight insta-kill ability, at the same time as you're buffing the probability of that ability to even insta-kill, like, it's almost going to be irrelevant, I think. Not with new HP. Oh, yeah, you're right. Not with new HP. Yeah, okay, you're right. Dude, new HP changes everything. That's the single biggest change. Yeah, this is actually such a shit ability with every. God, mages just suck with new HP, dude. And I know they're getting buffed to compensate, but it feels like they have to get so buffed for that to be decent. Medusa went from Ace of Scaled to Ace of Hunters. Wow, this matters a lot. By the way, I'm gonna talk about Ace odds at the end a little bit, but this is a big change for comps that don't even want to use Medusa. So this buffs, for example. This buffs both Knights and Assassins. They are more likely to get, mostly Assassins. Because like Assassins run Slark and they're probably going to run Tidehunter or some Scaled to pair with Slark because Assassins want to run Scaled. And now the void odds go up, because when Medusa odds go down, void odds go up, right? So important to like be aware of it. It's only a couple percentages, but like it does actually matter like how you play those alliances a bit. So old ace effects, yada yada, it's gone. New ace effects, hunters deal 5% extra attack damage per hunter alliance level for each other hunter attacking the same target. Hunter is a 3/6 alliance, so per level is going to be 10% for each hunter attacking the same target, which is I think that's how the old ace item or the old alliance item used to be. Interesting. So basically, I mean it's not super strong. When you've got 2 hunters attacking the same target, those 2 hunters for each other hunter attacking the same target. So let's say all your hunters have 100 DPS. 2 hunters are attacking the same target. Each of them will each gain 10 DPS, which means that your 200 damage goes into 220 damage, 10 DPS markup. That's not great, but I mean, it's kind of okay. You got 3 hunters attacking the same target. They all gain 20% extra damage. So you're looking at a 60%, not 60% DPS markup. It's 60% of one of their additional attacks. With more HP is way better though. With more HP, something like this is a lot better. Yes. And that's the biggest important thing to compare it to before. Before, it's like when all your hunters are attacking the same units, they're all dealing a lot of extra attack damage, you know, up to, let's say you've got 6 hunters, they're all dealing up to 50% extra attack damage if they're all attacking the same thing. And now it's 50%, but you're not overkilling and you're just like focusing things down. Now the thing about hunters is like, you can't control who you attack, not very much. I mean, obviously you box your stuff up and back and they're like less likely to split on random targets. Maybe, you know, you don't run Deadeye on your sniper, which makes it more likely for you to hit the same things. Maybe. Medusa's bad now? Really? I don't think so. I mean, you still run her in hunters, right? If you're in 6 hunters, you are running Medusa. She's worse now than before just because, like, I mean, the idea of a, like, the ace of, like, she was better before in, like, a good stuff general build. Anasix can cast them to all attack the same target. And I think Anasix, we decided Anasix is probably what you already want in hunters. So you can go for Anasix in hunters and you can get your, what's it called? God, what is it called? It's the talent on 20, the ultimate on 20. You have a 100% chance of choosing between that if you want to choose it. And that will make all of your hunters attack the same target and you'll kind of kill it. So that seems, Anasix seems like good in hunters. I think that's easy. There's not really a reason to run Hobgin in hunters. So for hunter players, you might lean a bit more towards Anasix than Hobgin. Okay. So it's like, I mean, it's kind of a simple ace to evaluate. Like you run it in 6 hunters, you don't run it outside of 6 hunters. It's kind of easy. Gameplay in 29 minutes, he said. Guys, we're getting there. It's going to be close. We're actually almost there. I'm wrapping this up. It's probably going to be like 10 or 15 more minutes. I'm sure, probably. See, I don't think there's too much more to say about this. There's no ways you can play around this in an interesting way. It's just like 6 hunters feel better. Terrorblade being a hunter right now is basically insane, by the way. I don't know what they changed to his stats or anything, but that's a big deal. So I could see 6 hunters being viable, and if 6 hunters are viable, then Medusa fits that comp, right? It's pretty easy. It's Anasix, not Anasix. Oh, is it Anasix? Okay, Anasix. Nature's Prophet. Alliance has changed from Elusive Druid to Druid Shaman. Whoa. Oh, he just lost the Elusive Alliance. It's weird that they would remove one of his alliances without giving him another one, though. So he just has, like, 1 alliance now? He's just a Druid? I don't get that. Usually when they remove alliance, they at least, like, add another one, right? Huh. So Nature's Prophet has 1 alliance. Okay, sure. I mean, there's more druids in the game now, so I guess you can do something else with that. Necrophos, Heartless here. Oh, look at that. You guys were right. You guys were actually saying, like, Necrophos is probably losing Warlock and probably gaining Healer instead. Wow. Okay, so that makes perfect sense. So this means, you know, Warlocks are obviously a bit less OP. That's kind of the entire point. He gets Healer instead, which... it's kind of hard to evaluate. Like I said, this fits in Knights. It feels hard for this to fit outside of Knights. Knights feel like the only thing that can use 3 healers late game. So this becomes a unit you run in Knights. And I'm not even sure how good triple healer is in Knights, by the way. It seems like it's decent, but I don't know. It does seem like it's decent. It's important to note healer does work with Anasix. She does have some, or sorry, Anasix. You guys are saying it's pronounced Anasix. Was there, I guess there must have been like some kind of like confirmation on the, like they Have they confirmed how Hobgin is pronounced? Because some people were saying it's pronounced Hobgara. Anisix? Yeah. Knights always took Necros, so yeah, exactly. So it kind of doesn't change that, but it does mean that Warlocks are kind of less OP. Big blow to Warlocks, losing Necrophos. So Omni Knight. Alliance has changed from Human Knight to Human Knight Healer. We knew that he was getting Healer. It would have been weird for him to lose one of these other alliances, so not too much to talk about, but this is why Knights can run Healer, because they just run Omni, Necro, Dazzle. We talked about that before. Sand King loses Assassin, which is what some people were expecting. Makes sense, because otherwise Assassin is... It's kind of weird that he had it in the first place. And this is kind of the thing that I think dooms insects to being kind of awkward. It's like, there's 4 insects, you need a 3 of alliance that has 1 tier, so there's no middle ground there, and they all 4 of them represent different secondary alliances. And because of that, it feels just so hard to run, unless it's OP, and I don't think it's OP. So, I mean, I might mess around with insects just to try it, just because it's, it's cool, it's new, and it's fresh, and I'm sure it'll look cool, but I would be pretty surprised if this was competitively good. Okay, Shadow Shaman. Maximum mana change from 100. And I'm just going to make a disclaimer. I have to say this like every hour. I don't know why. But like when I say something's bad, I'm not saying you shouldn't play it or you can't win with it. The difference between bad and good is fairly minuscule. It's a probability game. It's like poker. You can play any hand. If you want to play poker, and especially like maybe if you're a good player and you can outplay people, you can loosen your range and you can play like very aggressive, especially on certain tables, and it's fine. Like there's nothing bad with that. I'm just saying, like, in general, Insects is not going to be super strong. Like, in the long term, you're probably going to lose out. It's like, when it hits, it hits. When you 3-star stuff, or get good timings on stuff, or get good items, you can get first place. When that happens, everything gets first place. But, it's like, it's like paying to see the flop with something kind of weak. It's like, if you do it too long, you're going to lose out, but I'm not saying you can't do it. Like, you can do it, and any hand can win. Okay, Shadow Shaman, so maximum mana, so he goes down to 70, and his cooldown changed from 10 to 8, and mana cost, of course, scales. Maximum mana and mana cost, they really only need one line for that, because it's like every unit in the game, it's like built into the game's design that it's like the bar is like that one spell, but whatever. I mean, yeah, I'm not criticizing, I'm just thinking out loud. Hex cooldown goes to 8, that's a big deal. 8 is, I mean, with low numbers like that 2 seconds makes much more of a difference. And I mean, Hex's duration is pretty mad. Isn't it like 468 or something like that? So it's like constant Hex at level 3, which you're not doing, by the way. Shaman is a non-alliance. So he's a troll, and now trolls have the ability to run 4 of without this unit. So I think this unit literally doesn't exist. I mean, it allows you to be a 4th troll before you get Troll Warlord and put him on the board. But before you find Troll Warlord, I don't think you want 4 trolls on your board. And the Shaman Alliance does nothing. So the fact that Dazzle exists means this unit... I mean, it's like before, it's like... I mean, if you get him to level 2 early, anything can be played, but... Apart from that, this unit literally doesn't exist, right? I don't think so. Slark, stolen attack speed changed from... Whoa! Okay, so this is the like long fight compensator. It's because fights are longer. Wow. This has to be a nerf overall, though. Stolen attack speed goes from 357 to 123. Slark is dead? I don't think he's dead. I mean, fights are longer, and assassins still like the ability to pair scaled. I mean, it's not like Tidehunter is going to be a bad hero, I think. So it's like scaled is always something you have access to. So, I mean, I can't imagine Slark's dead. I think he's... Again, you have to understand, this is a compensating buff to the fact that fights are longer, and Slark is kind of better in longer fights. Kind of. That's a little arguable, because he kind of dies early sometimes. I will say it's a nerf overall. Slark backtrack OP. Yeah, picking up backtrack on Void is kind of nice for him, too, when you're in 6 Assassins. I think 6 Assassins still runs this card, but again, I mean, you're either 3-starring it or you're not. I will say, this is why I wanted to wait on the Slark emote. Wait, Dino, you knew Slark was getting nerfed? Do you have inside information, Dino? Man, if my emote artist has inside information, then you guys will be able to determine who's getting nerfed by the emotes that I'm not putting down. That's a leak, dude. We can't have that. That's no good. Okay. So yeah, Slark, I think you run him in 6 Assassins. The one thing, though, is that now that assassins are more contested, you might not have to run scaled with backtrack, maybe, possibly, and Slark is a bit worse. The way Nyx Assassins was running before, it was like, if you had a level 2 Slark without a Mask of Madness, you would still run him on your board. It's like, you didn't have good options with Assassins, and you still want that scaled pair. But now, it's possible that with this nerf, it's like you still play him in the same circumstance, but now maybe if you get a level 2 Slark late game, no odds for 3-star, no Mask of Madness, or Mask on a better, more priority unit like PA 3-star, maybe we could swap him out for a different Assassin. I don't know what options we have there. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a nerf, but it doesn't really change when you play this unit, right? That's kind of an important thing to understand. Like, if this is a nerf to Slark, but the circumstances in which you play Slark are still the same, which is basically, like, you could play a level 2 Slark early now. It's harder to now. That's true. But mostly you're playing Slark because you're in Assassins, and now you're still playing Slark when you're in Assassins. That hasn't really changed. So what you have to understand is this no longer is a nerf to Slark. This is a nerf to Assassins, because you still run the unit, but the comp is weaker. A nerf to a unit is a nerf to the opportunities for you to run that unit, whereas a nerf to the comp is a nerf to the opportunities to run that comp. It's not about power level, it's about the situations that you can go at. You still run Slark in the same situations. Slark is kind of not nerfed as much as Assassins are nerfed. Okay, so Terrorblade, whoa, they didn't change any of his stats. Whoa, he just gets Hunter. So what does that do? Because, like, I mean, most of why Terrorblade was kind of OP was because Demon Hunter just gave him a crazy buff, right? Demon Hunter was giving him, like, double damage. And the Hunter multiplier for damage is, like, 1.4 or something with the double attacks. It's there, but it's less than a 2x multiplier. But a big difference is that his Hunter tag is allowing him to complete Hunters easier, right? Whereas Demon Hunter tag, he picks it up, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, it seems like if you're in Hunters, you're probably in Terrorblade. If you're in 6 Hunters, you're probably in Terrorblade. It does seem like that. I don't know. It's so hard to evaluate. I might have to play this one. Okay, Tiny. Stun duration got nerfed. Okay, so 500 milliseconds left on all levels. And cooldown got a bit nerfed as well, so they're basically nerfing Tiny. This is a pretty deserved nerf. Tiny is, I think by all accounts, kind of an OP hero. He's a pretty small part, but he is a part of why 6 Warriors has been good for a long time. A pretty small part, but I guess they felt that this was nerf worthy, and I don't disagree with this. That's fine. Treant Protector loses Elusive for Brute, which is also what I saw some people saying. He would probably lose Elusive for Brute, which makes sense. It's, I mean, like the odds of a big fucking tree that, like, I mean, he waddles around slowly. And I know in Dota he has his Invis spell. I get it. But, like, I mean, it's not like it wasn't at least a little weird. And it's not like Invis and Elusive are the same thing. Because if anything, like, most Invis things are Assassins and not Elusives. So I don't think Elusive is meant to, like, correlate to that from, like, I guess a flavor standpoint. So, yeah. He lost Elusive. He didn't get changed. He's got a low cooldown. So, and big thing to understand is because the fight durations are longer, units that have more spammable cooldowns are better, and units that have, like, one-time cooldowns are worse. Cooldowns that have, like, 15 seconds, these become twice a fight effects. And cooldowns that have, like, 5 to 10 seconds are good. Treant was nuts before. He is nuts now. If anything, he's even more nuts, because the Brute pair is more easy to use than the Elusive 3 of. And if you're running Treant, you know, you got, like, your level 2 Enchantress or whatever. You could even use her healer tag that she has early. She's a bit better. So I'm thinking, like, an early game transitional comp could be level 1 Treant, level 2 Enchantress, level 2 Mr. Warlock, and level 1 maybe, like, Dazzle. And, like, obviously, if you get Dazzle or Treant to level 2, that's better. But you're likely not getting Treant to level 2. And then the Brute tag on top of Elusive makes that comp even better. You can't really use Elusive as a 3 of, but Brute allows you to splash, like, maybe like a 2, like a level 1 Lifestealer could be kind of okay. But I'd see more potential in, like, some level 2 early Brute that you're able to get. Maybe Axe. I guess Magnus. I don't know. I don't see Magnus as an actual unit, so maybe not. Maybe a level 1 Lifestealer is okay with that. Brutes kind of suck, huh? It's like I'm looking at this Treant Protector, and I'm like, wow, he's got Brute. He's a nuts early game unit that only becomes even more nuts as the fight durations scale on long. And I'm looking at, and he's got a Brute tag. He's got a better tag. And then you actually look at what the tag implies, and it's like, okay, level 2 Axe. Ooh, I guess I can put that in. Level 1 Lifestealer. Well, he's a tier 3 now, so you can't reasonably expect in these early game transitional spots. You can't get him to level 2, so he's going to be... You know, you have your 2-star kind of weak 1 cost. You have your 1-star kind of, you know, untagged 3 cost. You have Magnus, who's, you know... I mean, he has 1 alliance for some reason. And then you've got Doom, who you're probably not finding. So you look at all of that, and you're like, wow, suddenly this Brute tag is not actually really buffing Treant's ability to be an early transitional hero. X is pretty good. I had him at 20k HP last game. Yeah, but I'm talking in general. Like, anything is good in the tags that you use it in, of course, but just as like a generalized early game transitional unit, X doesn't really get anywhere. And don't get me wrong, like, I will run a level 2 X on that board, and the Brute will do a non-zero amount of something. That will, like, that will happen, and it will be better than not, but it's not going to empower very much. But yeah, Treant is nuts. The Druids, early game Druids are nuts. They have to be. Anything that's cooldown based instead of like 1 cast based is just good, right? So, and that's really important to understand. Like, the biggest thing at the end of the day, the biggest thing in all of this is the fact that fights last longer. So all cooldowns just get better. Like, Octarine just gets better, basically, as well. Knights got nerfed a little. They only reduce damage coming in front of them now. Wait, did I not... Wait, that's not here, right? I didn't miss that. Knights only reduce damage coming in front of them now. This is coming from Yusu. It's not in the patch notes, but it's how the game files work. Whoa! Okay. That's really interesting. So that's a big nerf to Knights. Wait, what? Smiley face? Yeah, Mike Wizard is not like this thing right now. Knight spammers are depressed worldwide. Dude, Knights... So, what does in front mean? It's in the Alliance description, so it is in the game. So, Knight Shields only block stuff coming in front of it now. So, we're finished with this, right? So, Warlock gets Healer for free, which makes him... Like I said, Warlock Enchantress plus a 3rd Healer sounds like a decent early game thing. Could be Dazzle, could be Omni for just a level 1 uncompleted Healer. But Healers feel like a good early Alliance, for sure. And you want Treant there to pick up the healer buff because he has heals, to be nuts because he's fucking Treant, and to even, you know, pair Druids with Enchantress. So that's a great early game combo. Let's actually look at this Knights combo. So that's today's jail. So we got rulebook. Let's look at Knights. If attacked from the front and within 1 cell of an allied knight, they get their extra damage. So what does from the front mean? Unzoom? Yeah, we gotta unzoom here. What the hell does from the front mean, precisely? This is bullshit, smiley face. So before it was 15, 20, 25, right? It was the same numbers. But now, if attacked from the front, now the second part can only be when you're attacked from the front, which we still don't know precisely what that means. From the front means the 3 squares in front. Wait, does it? What the hell does from the front mean? Is it like Riki, where it is like the 3s, like your general, I guess, the 3 squares in front? And that should also apply to ranged attacks, right? So it's just like, basically, it makes them vulnerable to assassins without changing too much of anything else. Is basically how that should read. So it means assassins can kind of counter knights. That's kind of neat. I don't hate that. Knights do get nerfed a bit by this. There will be situations where, like, outside of assassins, like Blink Dagger, you know, can happen. It's not that much of a nerf, because like most attacks happen from the front, right? If that's what from the front means. Check Underlords and all talents. I do have to check Underlords and all the talents before I finish off reading all these patch notes, because that does matter. I know, guys, we're gonna get to gameplay soon. I promise. I got to do the patch notes reading. This is important. This is where we learn like what's good and what's bad. So now that HP double, they're actually buffed. I mean, but you can say that with everything. Like, everything scales with the amount of HP your units have. Every single ability in the game. But yes, I mean, yeah, with extra HP, Knights is a comp that benefits from that a bit more than some. I don't think Knights are terribly nerfed. If from the front means what we think it means, it will probably rarely even happen that it gets attacked from the back. Like, there's some weird things that happen, like, I don't know, like weird force staff situations, or where something ends up behind you a bit, so one of your knights turns around and then gets attacked by something else, you lose a bit. Warlock's heal does not scale. So was there a change to Warlocks that was unmentioned? What do you mean it doesn't scale? Both are healed for 50, 70, 100. That was what it was before, right? Or am I misremembering? They take 25 from behind and 50% from the front. Yeah, exactly. Well, you mean they take 75 from behind and 50% from the front. Yeah, that's what the shield is, yeah. If you go for 3 more hours, you get to see the new jail before gameplay. Oh, wait, do we have a timestamp? Is there confirmation that jail resets at 5 p.m. Pacific every day? Is that the daily jail time? Which could change. Interesting. Okay. That's really good to know. So yeah. Okay, cool. There's a timer on it right now, so it could in theory change it. Yeah, they could in theory change it. Okay. So yeah, it seems like that's when the jail's gonna reset. That matters a lot, because like whether you play during that time is gonna, you might prefer playing, like if you're playing for 4 hours, you might prefer playing like where jail happens halfway through if you just, like changes. But you also just might not like getting re-jailed during, anytime you're playing. So that matters a lot. A lot of people in different time zones are going to get affected by that, different amounts. Okay. So, what we have here. Okay, so I want to talk about like 1 or 2 more things. We do need to go through the talents, because the talents are still like wrapping things up. Guys, we'll get to a game. It's going to be a bit longer than I thought, because I forgot about the Underlords talents. Okay. It's going to be a bit longer than I thought. We talked about the items, although we can see them here. Here's Celebratory Murder Gong with its visual, and here's Assassin's Veil, which looks vaguely familiar. Wow, that's interesting kind of like line work in art they've got. It makes me think about darker times. Okay, and those are the 2 new items. Okay, so I did want to talk about demons and how they might be played. That's quite interesting. Then we have, I wanted to talk about ace tier odds. So currently there's 9 aces in the pool. Let's talk about ace tier odds like real quick, because playing for ace odds is definitely going to make a bit of a difference. So let me go ahead and bring back my spreadsheet, and let's go ahead and look at info, which Yusu has polished down here. We've got a lot of info on this page. This is just kind of basic mechanics. He made it look real nice. And we've got kind of ace odds here. So basically how this is going to work here is we've got, scroll right a little. Oh, did we add some more? Ooh, here we go. Chance of an ace unit in shop to be a specific one. We've got win streak, so this is Yusu's doing. I set this page up, and then he basically polished it and added in some other stuff. And I mean, he made basically half of the rest of the spreadsheet. So everyone, thank Yusu for this one. We have, so yeah, basically this bar graph represents how many alliances are completed and your odds of hitting an uncompleted alliance, which is really important. So basically, when we look at this, when you're completing 2 aces, you are more than doubling your odds of hitting it. Whereas when you're completing 1 ace, you're already more than you're more than doubling your odds of hitting it. Whereas the blue is chance uncompleted alliance, whereas red is completed alliance. So is this a linear? Looks linear. Is this right? This one, is the graph updated with? No, it's not updated to be 9, right? So the graph needs to change a bit now that there's 9 ace alliances. So right now, if you complete your first one, you're looking at a markup from 9.4 to 24.4, which is about a 2.5 times multiplier, which is huge, right? And then when you get to 2 ace alliance completed, you're looking at a 3 times multiplier. So we can see here, if you can choose between having 1 ace completed versus 2 aces owned, or 1 ace owned versus 2. The second ace owned is slowing your odds by 2%, which if you play good stuff meta, that might matter for something for example, accidentally completing shamans. It was kind of bad for odds of hitting Enigma, lowers your odds of hitting Troll. So an important thing, these small percentages do matter. Hitting your ace is often a big win condition, so that low chance will matter if you're handling it properly. And something that's important to be considering, I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about something like Medusa losing scaled. It means assassins, you can be unscaled with assassins without lowering your odds of void just to find a Medusa for no reason, right? Which is really good, right? it's a big deal. And also maybe there's incompleted aces that you want. So I'm trying to think, is there any ace alliance that you might want to play a little bit differently based on like things that lower the odds of hitting? It looks like Lich basically didn't get changed at all. I like these new colors. They're a little weird to get used to, but they're hitting more of the color spectrum. Because before it's like there's 3 greens, there's 3 blues, and there's like 5 reds. And now there's, Heartless is gray. It makes sense. Assassins is like a deeper purple. Okay. So, if you're in like, I think at the end of the day, there's nothing currently in the game that will make you want to like avoid a specific alliance. If they hadn't changed Medusa, there might be some situations where like avoiding pairing scaled can actually be beneficial. Okay, so welcome back to the 1/8 Gay Club, Mr. Karupika. The UI is a mess in game, man. Okay, I'll have to check it out because I've heard a lot of you guys saying the UI feels kind of bad or a little mobily, which isn't surprising. I think when Underlords first launched like 5 months ago or whatever, the UI also was getting complaints and they fixed it like literally within like 48 hours. So. I think it was within 24 hours, right? I just remember the day one launch. So maybe they'll tidy up a couple of things. I think the UI is good for the most part, but there might be a couple of things that could be changed. I don't know. People always overreact poorly to new UIs just because people don't like learning new UIs. And that's it. So we've gone through all of the patch notes. And now the last remaining thing to do is go through the talent trees of Hobgin and Anisix themselves. So we can look at, where's glossary is, ooh, that's cool. Okay. They've got icons for these. This glossary is actually, oh, this is nice for new players. So where do you see Underlords? Is there, wait, where is that? It should be in rulebook, right? Do you choose your Underlord on loadout? No, you don't. Is there no Underlord talents on rulebook? You have to press play first. Select an Underlord. Okay, that makes sense. So before you jump into the game, you choose your Underlord. Now, the interesting implication this will have from a design standpoint is it'll sort of tighten certain ranges and loosen other ranges, right? So like how Underlords are going to work is like okay, so let's say Anisix, let's say Anisix is good for hunters. I think she's pretty good for hunters, and Thrall looks nuts for hunters. Your entire team attacks the target for 5 seconds. That's great. That's great. That's so good. So Anisix is good for hunters, 6 hunters. Obviously, she's good for demons because of her passive ability, which we didn't really talk about in this. We haven't talked about it in the patch notes. Some of you guys might know it from like just following stuff. But we'll talk about Anisix and Hobgin a little bit. So she wants her demons. She's got a heal, and she deals some pure damage per level. So what is per level? Does she level up? Is a level every time she hits a round? And we can see all the traits all the talents that modify these. Okay, and then there's the about page. Do I have my sounds off, or does this just have no audio? It's not going to be her voice anyway. And then we can look at view talents. Locked. Unlocked by getting 6th place or better in 6 matches with this Underlords. Interesting. So there's a little bit of progression. They're basically... this isn't really going to lock anyone out of being able to play competitively. You're going to get these all like really soon, but it makes it simpler for newer players so that they don't have 20 talents to learn all at once, which makes sense. I'm on board with that. I know it's easy to look at stuff that's locked and be like, well, I can't download the game and play in a tournament immediately, and that's kind of dumb. Okay. So, yeah. Ooh. Ooh. That was ooh, hang on.
Well, it's settled then. Let's take over a city.
Ooh. Oh. There we go.
Smart choice.
Ooh, that's not bad.
The fun is about to begin.
If I cancel out of it right away, I think we can see your lips move.
I am fit to rule White Spire.
That's bad lip animations. Oh well. That's, you know what?
I'm basically
it's not bad.
Gay.
Let's go swim big patch.
It's not bad. It's a decent voice. And Anisix's voice is obviously, like, a lot of you guys are wondering. This is important in like patch notes previews. A lot of you guys are gonna wonder what Anisix's voice is. It's okay. I still like Quaps better, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. It's not bad. 8 out of 10. It's not bad. It really isn't. Okay.
Of course you picked me.
So if I go standard, then it'll show me. Wait, how do I get back to the selection? I kind of canceled out of it. How do we go back? Did I mess up? Wait a second. Oh, so if I do this,
Let's make a little mischief.
I additional talents. Wait a second.
Be unstoppable.
How
I knew
Where-
you'd make the right choice.
do I click on the name? Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. We got there, guys. We got there. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and look through these. So the objective is basically determining which alliances these Underlords will want to play in. So the implications is when you choose an Underlord, you're basically I do want to clarify, you don't have to play one of these alliances, but you will gain a bonus, and as you get, like, as if you're a better player or playing in better ranks, this like flat bonus will become relatively more important to play for, right? So when you do pick an Underlord, you do want to have an idea of what kind of comps you want to play. So for example, Ana 6 is really good with Hunters for Enthrall. It's good with Demons for obvious reasons, because her passive ability scales with each allied demon on the board. Wow, that's a big deal. It's 50% of her base already. So yeah, she scales really well with demons on board. So that's very obvious. And in their talents, we might find like more things that fit with certain comps. I also like her for Knights. Knights like running healer, and she has Martyr's Boon, which heals nearby allies. All allied units actually, and it's good with Knights. Because they have a lot of DPS in their shields. So I would say she's good with those 3 comps so far, and we're going to find out a few more things she's good for. Hobgun seems good for mages. Obviously, I mean, you know, we do have Lena's Laguna Blade sets things on fire, which has some amount of synergy. He deals kind of like AoE magic damage, whereas hers is, you know, more pure or healing or summon attack physical damage. So Hobgun feels better with mages. He might be better in slower fights. I'm not sure if that's true, but there could be an argument that in some like warriors, he could be good in. Ana 6 is good with healers then. Yeah, Ana 6 is good with healers. She and her companion are also demons. That's interesting, which means the demons themselves, her companion, does it even have an ability? So does her companion get silenced for free and give all your other demons a higher % of damage? That's a big deal. Even outside of a demon build. If I had to say, based on very, very little information, it does seem like Ana 6 is a better unit than Hobgun. But Hobgun might be better in mages. I'm not sure what his talents will trend towards. So let's like break this down. This is the final thing before we're going to jump into some games. And then we'll jump into some games. We're going to look at the actual talents we have here. The companion has a passive. Okay, that's good. So when it gets silenced from your other demons casting spells, because it will silence because it's a demon, it just buffs them for free without losing the ability to cast anything. Okay, that's cool. So let's check out her abilities. I already breezed through these, and now let's look at her talents. So apparently how talents work is, I guess this is the only way to see them. So different talents have different like ratings. You can find them on different rounds. So round 10 talents. I'm actually going to go by round. So we're going to start going through all the round 10 talents. Round 10 talents. Ana 6's companions gain a 25% chance of quickly performing 3 extra attacks. Wow. So that's just her companion. That's not her flesh golem, I believe. It's just her companion. So a 25% chance of quickly performing 3 extra attacks. Whoa! That's a big deal. I mean, 3 extra attacks, it basically, if it works the same way as Hunters, this is like almost a double damage, right? If it's 3 extra attacks, that's 4 total attacks, which means the DPS increase of this should be 75%. 75% DPS increase. You can go to About and View Talents. Okay, fine, guys, whatever. But now we have to like look through. It doesn't even... Talents available at round 10. Okay, fine. Yeah, this is better. So it looks like there's 4 per round. Well, the 20 has no talents, but the ultimates, and then it's 4 per round apart from that. That makes sense. Okay. So, yeah, we're doing Chaotic Hunter. That seems really good. Am I misunderstanding this? You could say it's a bit less than 75 if there's more of an animation based on it. But, I mean, it already has a crit passive on it, and from what I've seen a lot of these talents that have been very underwhelming. So Chaotic Hunter seems nuts. Honestly, it does. I think it's 3 total attacks, so it's plus 50% DPS. That would make sense. Obviously, that would mean it's like miswording, but that would make more sense to me because 3 extra attacks is nuts. So yeah, plus 50% DPS. That's still good. That makes sense. And it's Yusu saying this, so he probably has some kind of source. Hunter is worded the same way. Oh, so that's also needs to be readjusted. Brill Bruiser. A Brill Bruiser demon spawns instead. So instead of your ranged unit, you get a melee unit companion. The demon stands nearby, blocks ranged attacks, and his attacks have a chance to bash. So Yusu will have to tell us what the bash chance and bash duration are, because that matters a lot. Blocks ranged attacks is interesting. It's basically a barricade, sort of. Any ranged attacks that try to go through it will get stopped. I think that almost doesn't matter, but it's kind of funny. The melee unit is really good, but it doesn't move around. Oh, can it not? Wait, it can't move? Oh, so it is a barricade. Jesus, that doesn't seem good. Brill doesn't move, it's a pain in the ass. Okay, so, I mean, this doesn't seem that good if it can't move, then. I mean, it's still a melee unit, right? It says, yeah, melee. Well, it doesn't say melee, but it's a hammer, and it's like, it's bash. It's probably melee only, right? It's just a protector. It stands next to Anus 6 all the time to protect. Okay. So, that doesn't seem too good. Of course, these are first impressions. Arcane Ritual. Units gain 5 mana a second while under the effect of Martyr's Boon. So Martyr's Boon is her heal. And units under the effect of it, it'll last 8 seconds apparently. Once she casts it, she takes damage equal to 25%. All other units heal for 50% per level. And receive 5 HP regen per level. Oh, interesting. Okay. So for those 8 seconds when she casts this, everything gains mana. So this is a situational grab. It makes her possibly pickable in mages. I was saying Hobgoblin looked like he might have been a bit better for the mage range. I'm not sure if that's true. We're going to have to see like what options they have for like mana gain and talents. Also, do you get all 4 talents offered to you? You can't, right? There's no way it shows you all 4. Does it give you a choice of 3? It's kind of weird that it's 4 per pool. So it's a choice of 3. You see all 4? Whoa. Huh. That's interesting. So you can actually, I mean, whatever you want, you can get. That's very interesting. I don't know if I like that. It means you're often going to be choosing the same ones every time. But, I mean, whatever has better mana gain, you will choose for Anus 6 or Hobgoblin if mana gain is what you want. 5 mana per second for those 8 seconds is, of course, 40 mana. Hard to compare. Mana is always like, if you need mana, it's good, and if you don't, then it's useless. So we can move on. And in medicine, instead of healing, Martyr's Boon now grants 25% increased attack damage. So this makes it scale a lot more. This is basically, what you should assume is that you're taking this on round 10, which means it's early game, but it actually makes you probably weaker early, if anything. It probably will make you weaker early because you'd rather have that flat healing early, perhaps. But when you get to like later game, maybe you get like, you start getting like some level 2, like tier 4 carries, maybe your tier 3s, your level 3s, 3 stars are coming in. Then this increased attack damage becomes kind of nuts. So it could actually be good. It's something you take early that's might make your early game weaker or at least not do as much. Catacunter does seem kind of the best out of these. Catacunter is like your early game option that falls off, and End of Medicine is like, this helps early game dominance, and this makes your early game either weaker or at least weaker in terms of opportunity cost, but it makes your end game better. Broken Knight's Broken Bones. The target is broken and will affected by Pure Pain. So Pure Pain, we can look at like how often that's going to be. Random enemy for 6 seconds. We don't know what the where's the cooldown? It says 50 hype. Where's the cooldown? Come on, dude. Give me the numbers. I need the numbers. Slide camera with scroll wheel. Okay, cool. Yo, see for yourself. What's up, man? Welcome back to the 1/8 Gay Club. So let's continue. We're just gonna breeze through these. We're not gonna spend too much time on any specific one because I know some of you guys want to see gameplay. And don't get me wrong, I do want to see gameplay too. So target is broken, so it breaks a random unit. Breaking is good. You're disabling all alliance gained passives. Pure Pain's cooldown is 10 seconds. Yuzu confirms. Okay, pretty sweet. Or Pure Pain's damage is doubled. Now, I think Broken Hearts, Broken Bones seems a bit better. I'd rather have Broken than a bit of double damage. At the very least, it comes down to whether you want to play early or late, right? I can say this is the early game option, the double damage. But Target is Broken will help some late game opportunities. Break is a powerful ability. It is almost like a Doom. It's like a Doom, but doesn't affect items. So it'll disable any alliance bonuses gained, but it won't stop those tiers from happening. Just for that one unit, they disable all alliance bonus picked up by that unit, which is big. And it will, of course, disable any passives. And some passives are kind of the entire reason to run units. Like if you're against assassins like Sark or PA, disabling these passives is really big. Despite all my rage, a funny kind of pop music. I guess it's not pop music, but it's popular. It's like it's mainstream music. It's funny. Good meme, I guess. And Anus 6's companion is killed. They come back angrier. Companion gains 150% attack damage every time they resurrect. Ooh. What? I mean, that doesn't keep happening infinitely. Wait, what's the limit on this? I must be... She summons and resummons a companion, so when her companion dies, she inherently has a res for it that has some kind of cooldown. When the companion dies, she immediately revives it. Okay, so that is completely insane. Okay, so that's literally busted. What the fuck? That's so crazy. What the hell? What? Gains 150 attack damage? And that works even better when you take the level 10 Chaotic Hunter, because it's going to multiply together with its extra attacks. That seems... It takes a while to resummon. Okay, so it's not instant. But, I mean, that seems good. We'll see. Confidence boost. For Martyr's Boon, you get 40% hype generation while affected by Martyr's Boon. I don't see that as super amazing. It's kind of hard to say how good hype generation is, but, I mean, it depends on how slow it is normally. And then Thrall actually starts the game locked. So you have to go Demonic Golem for a few games. Interesting. So Golem is kind of a good tank. This is a melee unit. You can assume this is going to be some like brawny bruiser, kind of like, you know, it's a big dude. It will tank. It can frontline for certain comps that need a frontline. Or she can go with Thrall, which forces her entire army to attack a unit for 5 seconds. And if it dies, which, I mean, it will. It's your entire army attacking it. You get it as a demon. Like, Thrall seems nuts. I mean... I don't know how good this Golem is. Maybe the Golem is really good too. Golem is saying 2k HP, 5 armor Golem. Golem is nutty. I mean, you need to play like 5 matches to even get Golem, or to get Enthrall, but I mean, I can see Enthrall and Hunters. Both of these seem really good. I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at Hobgen over, but Hobgen did seem a little lackluster comparison. The ultimates don't cast until the end of the round. Because, you know, they're expensive hype-wise. Yeah, it's true. They don't cast until late. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure they cost like the most hype. Does it say hype costs here? No, guess not. But yeah, it's hard to say like what's good and what's not. We're just kind of like looking at the early ones. I think I might just get into some games. Like the early ones matter more, and then we'll kind of see these as we go along. So I'll look at Hobgen and I'll just like look at his abilities and think about the most important thing for me to do right now, and what I want to do for both you guys and myself as a player is like identify which kinds of comps each one skews for. That's the objective here. And late game talents don't do too much for that. So Ana 6 we identified as good for like hunters, assassins. Hobgen might be a little bit magey skewed. And you guys have been playing the game for a few hours while I'm sitting here looking at patch notes, so you might know a bit more than me. Explosivo, fireball at target. We don't know the numbers on this or like how summonable it is. Supercharged, 15 attack speed per level. So he's good when you kind of have like one carry that you want to empower potentially. Because Ana 6 doesn't have anything like this. And this could actually be a really big deal. So Hobgen could be good when you have one thing, like one carry that you really just want to give attack speed to. So a good for comps that have that one carry, that could be Knights, but Knights can use Ana 6 as well. That could be like Troll Warlord and Warriors. Basically the defense skewing alliances. The most important thing to understand is like, okay, so when you have, like you're looking at all these alliances, you're looking at these like 6 of build-arounds. Oops, I don't know why I'm clicking on random shit. So you look at the 6 of build-arounds, and the defensive ones are the ones that are probably going to be more narrow in terms of the actual DPS units they're attacking with. Like Elusive will have like 1 or 2 carries. You know, you'll have something like Warriors with 1 or 2 carries. Now you can use Troll Warlord, but this is also why Warriors build in like Arc Warden to kind of supplement their need for like 1 carry. And Knights are kind of defensive as well, so they have that like 1 or 2 carries that kind of do the most. And Hobgen does feel like he wants to be in these defensive comps because he sets things to fire, does better with longer rounds, potentially, we don't know that. But also, with these defensive comps, they'll have 1 or 2 like DPSers that he'll want to kind of give more damage to. So I think that's kind of the breakdown of Hobgen versus Ana 6 so far. We need to actually play more to get a better idea of how to use these 2 alliances. But of course, you know, there's gonna be a lot more coming where we're gonna figure out the best ways to use these, the alliances that are gonna be good for both. And I think it's time, guys. I think that's pretty much everything we want to discuss.